Hi everyone, we hope you're doing well. We're hanging in there though honestly, we haven't been getting much sleep lately. Today, we want to answer a question we get a lot: how do we publish our audiobooks? First, we post most audiobooks on Patreon as paid content. They stay paid for a few months. After that, they become free to listen to on Patreon forever. A few weeks later, we post them on other places like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, X. Lately, things have been a bit slow in terms of new members. So we'd love your help. Please share our site with your friends or in places like Facebook groups, Twitter, X, Discord, Reddit, or novel forums. Even one share can really help us grow. Thanks so much for your support. The blush on her face and her eyes, misty like water, added a touch of allure. Annie knelt with her knees apart, sinking into the soft mattress. She quickly got into the mood, an uncommon yet extremely familiar Annie, completely different from her usual state. Unlike her usual cool and indifferent demeanor, Annie in this situation seemed to erupt with flames from within, dyeing her fair skin with a layer of fiery clouds. Those usually calm eyes were now filled with intense excitement and a hint of frenzy from the heated air. It wasn't like lovers expressing affection, more like a hunter spotting desired prey, her turbulent gaze seeming to want to devour him whole. Weakened as he was, he couldn't refuse. The public ration always had to be paid. Actually, from the very beginning, he had noticed the contrast between Mikasa and Annie. Mikasa Ackerman, who was usually incredibly proactive in daily life, preferred to be more passive in this matter, her expression more shy, more delicate, not at all like her usual powerful self, just like a young girl deeply in love, which she was. In contrast, Annie Lenhart, who usually seemed uninterested in anything and rather aloof, was more proactive and aggressive. It seemed that beneath her calm demeanor and attitude towards him lay a volcanic eruption of love and madness. And Luke, usually proactive himself, could only be a fish on the cutting board today, letting Annie take the lead. The reason his constitution never improved was right here. Although Mikasa was extremely reluctant for him to do this kind of thing when his body was tired, today was Annie's turn, and the blonde girl wasn't willing to let such a good opportunity slip through her fingers. Annie continued her movements, her calves sinking into the mattress supporting her body, then gently lowering. Luke played with his phone. Beside him, Annie's frenzied expression had faded somewhat. The satisfaction of having consumed a delicacy seemed to delight her, making her unconsciously press her abdomen a few times. Delicious. Annie's red lips let out a comfortable sigh. Why does it feel like we should swap lines? Who's the servant here? Luke looked at Annie's dazed eyes and said helplessly. Maids turning the tables. It's fine. When your body recovers, you can let me do it. Mikasa said from above his head, feeling the weight of his head and unconsciously tightening her grip shyly. You belong to me today. Annie, however, showed a rare smile. Annie rarely revealed her true self like this. A smile filled her face, her eyes brimming with mixed amusement and affection. Her comfortable body felt like a drunken crab, hazy with intoxication. Annie gently extended her hand, searching for his fingers. Luke didn't refuse, reaching out his fingers to intertwine with Annie Lenhart's. The reflection in Annie Lenhart's blue eyes discarded everything else around them, leaving only his image. What's wrong, child? Why are you so tired today? An old granny looked strangely at Luke, who was completely different from his usual energetic self. Sigh. Luke just leaned against the wall, sighing to himself. Granny Nanohana, life is hard. Ha ha ha, you can't be like this at your age. Granny Nanohana's hunched body moved forward, patting his shoulder. Cheer up quickly. Luke, having endured a day of school with his exhausted body, could only sigh helplessly. Sigh. Can't help it, I'm really tired. Just tell me what's up. Next time, don't call me in such a violent way. Even if I'm an exorcist, being yelled at in the ear while walking down the street will scare me. Then. Granny Nanohana truly saw his fatigue and hesitated. Maybe you should just rest. Just tell me. Luke urged her. According to reliable sources. Granny Nanohana whispered. Oh, a ghost causing trouble, huh? I'll go take a look. Luke nodded. Aren't you going to rest first? It's fine, the holiday has arrived anyway. Luke lowered his hand, formed into a small circle. Granny Nanohana's figure disappeared from his vision, only his faint sixth sense vaguely indicated her location. Luke rubbed his stiff neck, forcing his neither refreshed nor energized body forward. Starting today, abstain from sex. Yumiko finished throwing out the trash bag, her free hand holding her phone, staring blankly at it. The night chill made her shiver involuntarily. Is it my imagination? Yumiko shivered, glancing around a few times. It felt very similar to the day that incident happened. Yumiko put down her phone and quickened her pace, wanting to get home quickly. The sound of footsteps echoed on the ground. The surroundings seemed somewhat quiet. Vaguely, as she approached the corner, she saw on the usual path home, a strange person. For some reason, the strange feeling in her heart grew stronger, telling her this wasn't human. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." A chilling voice came from the strange figure's mouth, which was the size of a human brain. A chill ran down Yumiko's spine. The blurry face made it impossible to see the other's features. A thick stench emanated from the figure. Only then did she notice something was wrong. The figure's head was a bit too large. The figure had already enveloped her. She had no chance to escape. She watched in horror as the black mouth slowly widened. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." The ghost spoke again. "I've also been waiting here for you for a long time." The ghost slowly turned its head. Luke held the beechwood sword, eyes wide and round, mouth slightly open, corners turned down, face full of anger. Then, Luke tossed the beechwood sword aside, pinned the ghost with one hand, and furiously pummeled it with the other. "You little thing. Making me late for dinner. I've been looking for you here for half the night." The ghost trembled beneath him, reaching a hand towards Yumiko. "Help me. Police, call the police." "Police? You still want to call the police? Besides, with me around, who needs the police?" Luke, who had been walking around for hours in the night, pinned its hand down and continued pounding furiously, full of resentment. Yumiko watched all this speechlessly, until the evil spirit was beaten to ashes by a pair of fists. "Are you okay?" Luke retracted his fists, panting, and lifted his head. He saw a very familiar person. Luke said speechlessly, "It really is you? Mira-san, do you have a spirit-attracting constitution? You should go pray at a shrine." Chapter 22, Yumiko makes up her mind. "Why is it you again?" Yumiko clutched her phone tightly, yet felt an inexplicable sense of relief in her heart. Every exorcist has their own territory. Luke explained simply. "Anyway, are you okay?" "No, I'm fine," Yumiko said, clutching her arm and turning her face away. "If you're fine, then I'm leaving." Luke picked up his wooden sword, just wanting to go home and sleep cuddled up with his maids. "See, can you stay with me for a little while?" the blonde girl asked softly, head bowed. Luke pondered for a moment, guessing she was probably scared, and agreed. "All right, just for a little while." Yumiko familiarly found a place to sit down. Luke sat down beside her, idly polishing his wooden sword, waiting for the silent Yumiko to speak. He waited for quite a while. The wooden sword was almost polished to a shine. "What do you think of my circle with Hina, Yua, and Hayato?" Yumiko finally spoke. Luke paused his actions, glancing at Yumiko curiously, wondering why she brought this up. He barely knew them. But he still offered his opinion. "The top normie group in the grade, right? Isn't that how most people see it?" "Really?" Yumiko buried her head between her knees. "Is that how you see it too? How else would I see it? I don't even want to look," Luke said helplessly. "Right. Everyone seems so happy together every day," Yumiko said muffledly, her head still buried. Silence fell for a while. Luke tapped his feet lightly on the steps, one leg up, one down. He recalled recent events in class. Nothing seemed different from usual. Looking closely at Yumiko's downcast expression, Luke asked tentatively, "Afraid someone will break it all apart?" "How did you know?" "Figured it out from your expression and words." "Your eyes are really sharp," Yumiko muttered. "Looks like he guessed right. So is it you? Wanting to take things further, but afraid of breaking your friendship?" Luke continued guessing. "How could it be me? I'm not ready." "Don't talk nonsense," Yumiko quickly denied, blushing. After venting, Yumiko muttered again, "Although I really do want to hear some honest thoughts." Luke gave her a speechless side eye. "It's Tobe." Yumiko, seeing his look, quickly blurted out, blushing. "Tobe?" Luke narrowed his eyes, thinking. Probably that noisy, long-haired guy always around Yumiko's group? Tobe, the atmosphere guy of the clique. Vaguely remember him. Although he tries hard to hide it, I can still feel that he has feelings for Hina. Hina, Ebina Hina, that Fujishi girl. Can a guy really like her? But thinking back, when that Fujishi wasn't talking, her appearance did seem very quiet and cute. It wasn't strange for a guy to be deceived by appearances and like that kind of girl. Too bad that Fujishi has a brain she shouldn't have, full of nonsense. But Hina. Although she seems weak on the surface, she's very strong-willed inside. She'd do anything to maintain this relationship. Yumiko sounded somewhat downcast. If it breaks, everyone will drift apart, get hurt. I don't want anyone to get hurt. That was the crux of it. But are you there, Mom? Mira-san. Luke sighed inwardly, then spoke. Mira-san, forgive my bluntness, but your kind of group can only be called a gang that hangs out together to chat. What did you say? Yumiko looked somewhat angry. Am I wrong? Luke looked at her. The atmosphere you create is indeed good. You're happy and enjoy yourselves when you're together. But as soon as something happens that could change this environment, you use lies and falsehoods to obstruct and delay, leading to the problem never being solved. So the same problems will just keep coming back, again and again. You can only carefully maintain it like this until graduation. Don't you get tired of it? But isn't that what everyone does? Yumiko said, trembling slightly. Luke thought of Yukino Shita Yukino, then said firmly, I don't know if pretending to fit into a group is right or wrong, but staying true to yourself definitely can't be considered wrong. I don't intend to discuss such grand principles with you, nor have I interacted much with your group members. But I believe that with people like you who wholeheartedly maintain friendships, the group won't fall apart just because someone expresses their feelings. Or rather, if it really is like that, then it might be better for such connections to truly break apart. But, I really don't want everyone to separate. Yumiko felt the cold and instinctively hugged her legs tighter. Hungry, want food. Luke pressed his stomach, helplessly stood up, and looked at the pitiful Yumiko. How about this? Although I don't know if we count as classmates, acquaintances, or even friends, but... He extended his hand to Yumiko. If something like that really happens, come find me at the service club. I'll help you. Yumiko stared blankly at his outstretched hand, reacting foolishly for a moment, then quickly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Don't need you to act tough. I can handle it myself. That would be best. Luke withdrew his hand. Looks like Mira-san has her own plan already. Luke glanced at the blonde girl, whose eyes were gradually recovering from their softness. Yumiko stood up, patted her cheeks, and said angrily. Damn it. I actually told you all this, and even let you see me without makeup. Her switch flips faster than a pancake. Luke put the wooden sword back into his backpack. Is there something wrong with me seeing you without makeup? Of course. Who wants a shut-in like you to see you better forget all of this? And Yumiko pointed at him, blushing shyly. And that lap pillow from the other day, forget all of it. The rebellious Luke wouldn't obey her and said casually, can't forget. Ah. Yumiko cried out in panic. Telling someone to forget while emphasizing it so much. Luke then took out a talisman. This is for you, it can defend against ghosts. No idea if you have a spirit-attracting constitution, seeing ghosts every day. Ah, thanks. Yumiko reacted, finally accepting it with a blush, then muttered, if you can't forget, then just don't forget. What did you say? Luke asked while feeling hungry. I said I'm going back. Yumiko raised her voice. I need to go back and eat too. Luke nodded, stretching his stiff ankle. No charge for today's exorcism. Hey. Yumiko reverted to her usual demeanor, pointing at him bossily. Walk me back. When asking for favors, please show some sincerity. Luke walked ahead. His spirit attribute was quite high, he could clearly remember the way to Yumiko's house from before. Yumiko, seeing his confidence, asked suspiciously from behind, how do you know my way home so well? Didn't you only come once? You're not really a pervert, are you? I'm not a pervert. I can remember the way simply because I'm not an idiot. Luke glanced at her. TCH. Yumiko huffed disdainfully again. They had reached her doorstep. Then I'll be leaving, bye-bye. Luke bid her farewell. Right, worth mentioning, Mira-san looks much better without makeup. Ah. What did you ask? Yumiko shrieked shyly, then quickly quieted down, carefully glancing inside the house. Thankfully, there was no unusual movement within the brightly lit rooms. Luke looked at the suddenly furtive Yumiko, once again subverting her previous image, looking incredibly cute. What nonsense are you talking about now? Yumiko whispered, shrinking her neck slightly, propping her hands on her arms hanging at her sides, gently pushing outwards with the back of her hands. Go on, go. Goodbye. Luke reached the intersection, looked back one last time at Yumiko standing there, waving goodbye with her hands near her chest, and waved back. Chapter 23, The Girl Who Could See. In the blink of an eye, it was Saturday, the favorite day for students. You could sleep in, didn't have to wake up early, didn't have to go to school, and the next day was Sunday, still a day off. Not counting other holidays, Saturday was the best day. And Luke, also a student, tiredly poked his head out from under the covers, his eyes staring blankly at the ceiling and a clock on the adjacent wall, 10 o'clock. And then, abstinence plan, failed. He couldn't resist last night and got drained by my cause again. Luke rubbed his aching forehead. At this rate, forget about restoring his constitution to a normal person's level, He'd be thankful if it didn't drop below 9 points. This was truly a sad story. Sigh, still have to go out for work, how speechless. Luke rubbed his numb arm and crawled out from under the covers. Mikaze had already woken up long ago. The faint milky scent of a girl still lingered in the blankets. Need to change the bedsheets again. Getting dressed, he walked out of the room. Luke picked up a few exorcism tools. Today, he had to go on a business trip based on the information Kazekage gave him. However, he wasn't exactly averse to business trips. Instead, he was somewhat looking forward to it. After all, tasks like these usually came with hefty rewards. Actually, the income in the exorcism business was really high. After all, clients were generally wealthy. Because ordinary people did fewer bad deeds and rarely encountered ghostly troubles. But for some wealthy people who rose through unfair competition, once they became aware of the existence of evil spirits, their minds would be occupied by ghosts. They'd lose the sense of security that money provided, terrified that old enemies would turn into vengeful spirits seeking revenge. Because of this, any slight disturbance would make them want to call 100 exorcists over to investigate their homes. Hiring exorcists to perform rituals at home was like an addiction for these people terrified of death. Then I'm heading out. I'll leave things at home to you too, Luke said, looking at Mikaze Ackerman, simultaneously grabbing an egg from the dining table and popping it into his mouth, then picking up a slice of bread. He had already informed Mikaze yesterday that he was going out for an exorcism trip today, so she had prepared some simple food for him. Remember to send a message through your phone before you come back, the black-haired beauty reminded him. Oh. Luke walked out the door. As usual, he made a fist, placed it before his eye, and saw his neighbor, a familiar ghost Granny Nanohana. Child, although your two girlfriends are very pretty, young people should really do it in moderation. Cough cough. Granny Nanohana could sense the boy's condition and couldn't help but offer advice. Looking up at the high sun, Luke waved his hand, offering no rebuttal. You're right. Unfortunately, when you're home, things are often out of your control. After all, who at this age could resist the temptation of two beautiful, devoted young girls? But, the sun is so strong, it's not good for you to sunbathe right here, Luke said, looking at Granny Nanohana's spiritual body and reminding her. Although the sun couldn't kill souls after death, it was sufficient to suppress spiritual activity. Moreover, if a soul got frightened at this time, it might actually dissipate. So, generally, whether for evil or good ghosts, nighttime was their main stage. Even after death, you can't change the habits of life. Besides, my children are quite filial, the incense offerings are constant. I'll just go back and rest in a bit. Granny Nanohana chuckled nonchalantly. Anyway, sunbathing is a kind of enjoyment for me, a dead person. Young man, you'll understand when you die. Luke's mouth twitched. He'd rather experience that later. Alright, I'm leaving now. You should go back and rest soon. If some friends are looking for me, Mikaze and Danny will tell me. I know. Why are young people nowadays so gloomy, not even letting an old woman sunbathe? Luke lowered his fist. Granny Nanohana's image and words vanished into the air. Although Granny Nanohana hadn't passed on to the spirit world like normal dead people, she wasn't an evil spirit that harmed people. She was simply bound by an obsession born from an oath to a friend, which allowed her to linger. The existence of such benign spirits wasn't unheard of, just very rare. Exorcists could easily distinguish them and wouldn't perform exorcisms on good spirits. Of course, whether they helped fulfill their last wishes depended on the exorcist's kindness or whether the spirit had money in life. Bustling streets, a sea of people, a lively scene filled the air with laughter and chatter. It felt like this was how the world should be. But Yatsuya Miko clenched her hands together tightly, desperately trying to stop the tears from rolling down her cheeks. So scary, so scary, so scary. Her mind was completely overwhelmed by thoughts of fear. In the corner of her vision, a completely inhuman, grotesque monster kept leaning in close, its foul-smelling, drool-covered mouth constantly muttering beside her. Can you see me? Can you see? You can see, right? You can see. You. Anyone, please, save me. Yatsuya Miko's trembling lips tightened. She quickly lowered her head, opened her phone with both hands, trying to pretend she didn't see the evil spirit beside her. But the ghost's reflection on the phone screen still made it impossible for her to completely ignore it. You can see. Seeing the unresponsive girl, the evil spirit let out a vicious roar. Yatsuya Miko's whole body tensed abruptly. Little pearl-like tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes onto the phone screen. Her fair thighs rubbed together tightly, and her feet, encased in black mid-calf socks, clenched their toes hard. She was already, almost, about to lose it from fear. She really wants to run away, and pee. Ah! It's scorching hot. A sudden exclamation sounded beside her ear. Although it was just an ordinary human voice, Yatsuya Miko felt as if she had jolted awake from a dream, because she noticed the evil spirit beside her was trembling and rapidly backing away. Yatsuya Miko quickly looked up, but a layer of tears blurred her vision, making everything unclear. She hastily wiped away her tears, then took in the image of the newcomer and everything around. A boy stood there, slightly hunched over, holding a Coca-Cola dripping with condensation in one hand, fanning himself with the other. A very normal scene. But, surrounding the small fountain plaza, countless ghosts were trembling, desperately avoiding him. For a moment, Yatsuya Miko forgot her fear, forgot everything important, just stared blankly as the boy continued walking forward. And then, she saw those terrifying ghosts recoil from him as if they had seen a ghost themselves. Why? Why are they avoiding him? Why are they afraid? Thoughts flashed through Yatsuya Miko's mind. She quickly uncrossed her tightly wound legs, picked up the shopping bag beside her, and used the last bit of strength remaining from her fear to chase after him. Chapter 24, Yatsuya Miko finally sheds little pearls. Luke walked down the street, nursing a headache. The fierce sun beat down from above, making him feel miserable all over, draining every last bit of his strength. Having just left the client's house, he was already eager to get home. He hated the heat the most. Hello. A timid voice, tinged with nervousness, came from behind. Luke turned around to see a cute girl standing behind him. One hand held down her skirt, while the other was raised in the air, seemingly greeting him. What do you want? Luke asked, frowning impatiently. See, could you? Wait here for me, just a second. Yatsuya Miko said, sniffling and choking back sobs. She lowered her head, looking utterly wronged, both hands tightly gripping her skirt. Her fair thighs pressed together tightly once more. Now, she remembered the important thing she had forgotten earlier. Yatsuya Miko bit her lip shyly, a blush spreading across her face, her body trembling with embarrassment. Luke glanced downwards. Below the skirt Yatsuya Miko was covering, water appeared seemingly out of nowhere, dripping uncontrollably onto the ground, forming a puddle. He quickly said, cough cough, okay. Why you should go take care of that first. Yatsuya Miko kept her head down, hands tightly gripping the handles of her shopping bag, feet shuffling across the pavement towards the restroom, taking the smallest steps possible. The flow she had been desperately holding back, once she relaxed when he stopped, had uncontrollably broken through the dam. Hyuga. So embarrassing. The deeply wronged Yatsuya Miko hadn't been scared into this state by the ghost, but at this moment, she finally shed little pearls, tears. Yatsuya Miko walked into the restroom, glanced left and right, and seeing no terrifying ghosts, let out a huge sigh of relief. She chose an unlocked stall and sat down on the toilet. Right now, the public embarrassment from before was gone, her mind completely filled with what had just happened. Why did the ghosts back away? Why were they afraid? Yatsuya Miko gently lifted her blue-black skirt, revealing the soaking wet panties underneath. Could he be an exorcist? Good thing I went shopping for underwear today, don't have to endure this uncomfortable state. She gently removed the panties clinging to her legs. She picked up some tissue and gently wiped the inside of her thighs. Could it be an item like a talisman? Can you see? Yatsuya Miko, holding her panties, froze abruptly. She slowly looked up. From the adjacent stall, a pitch-black ghostly head stretched over. Can you see? Seeing Yatsuya Miko's gaze, the ghost's head, perched on the partition, elongated its neck like a python's body, coiling over the divider. It dangled its long neck, dropping its terrifying face right in front of Yatsuya Miko. Its empty eye sockets opened and closed along with the shape of its mouth, simultaneously making sounds. Can you see? You help. Yatsuya Miko stiffly rubbed her neck, eyes wide. But even though her heart was filled with fear, her mouth still spoke calmly. My neck is so stiff, shopping is so tiring. As long as I pretend not to see it, everything will be fine. Stay calm, just like always. It's so late, I need to hurry home. Yatsuya Miko quickly changed into fresh panties, grabbed her shopping bag and phone, and pushed open the stall door. Without even washing her face, she hurried out. Did you see? Me? Did you see? The ghost's voice came from beside her feet. Woo, why is it still following? Yatsuya Miko was about to cry again. She quickened her pace, observing the ghost with her peripheral vision. Its shaky body followed beside her, skinny, slightly bent as if carrying an endless weight. Its slender neck drooped down, dragging its head rolling on the ground, continuously following beside Yatsuya Miko. Its tattered robes, decayed by time, hung raggedly. The clothes were stained with blood, mud, and the stench of decay, emitting a nauseatingly putrid smell. Its arms and legs were unnaturally twisted and deformed, as if warped by endless pain and torture, but still not as terrifying as that python-like neck. Yatsuya Miko ignored its questioning whispers in her ear and quickly returned to her starting point. Her gaze landed on a boy waiting there with his back to her. Yatsuya Miko's heart leaped with joy. She lifted her foot, wanting to approach, but her raised foot gently lowered. She hesitated. "Can you see?" The evil spirit beside her ear was still asking. "If he's not an exorcist? If his items can't deal with the evil spirit, will he be in danger?" Yatsuya Miko hesitated. "Can you see?" Yatsuya Miko bit her lip, wiping the tears from the corners of her eyes. "Maybe I should just forget it. Anyway, as long as I pretend not to see the ghosts, they can't do anything to me." "That's fine. Just fine. Hey. I've been waiting for ages. Takes that long to change clothes?" Yatsuya Miko quickly looked up and saw the boy making a fist near his face, walking towards her in that peculiar way. "Don't come over." She quickly shouted to stop him. She didn't want to drag anyone else into this. But Luke was already beside her. "Can you see?" The evil spirit emitted a ghostly voice. "Ah, I can see." Luke recited. "You can see." The evil spirit swung its long neck, picked up its own head, and threw it out. "No." Yatsuya Miko cried out anxiously, only to see a wooden sword appear from nowhere and slice through the evil spirit's neck. Like a kitchen knife slicing through tofu, easy and effortless, the thought flashed through the stunned Yatsuya Miko's mind. Watching the evil spirit's body turn to ash and scatter in the wind, Luke nodded with satisfaction. No wonder the surroundings felt off when he was walking around earlier. Malice clearly filled the air, but as soon as this girl left, everything cleared up. "Girl, you have a big problem." Luke shifted his gaze to the dazed, teary-eyed girl. "What did you just say no about?" Yatsuya Miko turned her cute, delicate face towards him. Although they had never met before, a long-lost sense of security washed over her, causing the fatigue accumulated in her body and soul from seeing ghosts all these days to finally break her down. And so, Yatsuya Miko began to sob silently, tears streaming down her face like rivers. Scared? Don't cry." Luke suddenly felt helpless, looking at the girl in front of him, not understanding why she had suddenly burst into tears. If others noticed, he'd really have trouble explaining himself. As if to confirm his thoughts, passers-by started casting glances their way. Yatsuya Miko's little pearls, tears, fell even more heavily. Chapter 25, Yin-Yang Eyes. "Sorry, it won't happen again." After sending off the troublesome crowd who had gathered to lecture him, Luke turned his head speechlessly to look at the girl who had stopped crying and was now shyly fidgeting with the hem of her skirt. Stare. 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 Under his gaze, Yatsuya Miko spoke hesitantly, "Sorry." Sigh. Luke let out a heavy sigh and sat down on the seat next to her. "What's your name?" "Ah. Hello, my name is Yatsuya Miko." Yatsuya Miko quickly replied. "Oh, Yatsuya-san, right. Go ahead, what do you need from me?" Luke asked straightforwardly. Yatsuya Miko hesitated, glanced left and right, and seeing no ghosts trailing her as usual, breathed a sigh of relief. Looking up at the boy, Yatsuya Miko asked evasively, "Why, you can see those things, right?" "Ah. You mean those ghosts and spirits?" Luke took a sip of his now room temperature Coke and replied to Yatsuya Miko's inquiry. A chill ran down Yatsuya Miko's spine. Could you just say things like that out loud?" Casually glancing at the girl's strange reaction, Luke said nonchalantly, "Of course I can see ghosts and spirits. Actually, you can too, right?" He had already made the judgment from the earlier situation. This girl possessed a talent that most exorcists lacked. Yatsuya Miko nodded. I can. Can you see them at any time? Just with your naked eyes?" Luke looked into her eyes, yellow irises surrounding black pupils, very pretty. Although some time had passed since he transmigrated, he still felt a bit helpless about this unusual, yet common in this world, human anatomy. Cute and pretty, yes, but still takes some getting used to. "Ah. Yes. Anytime, just by looking with my eyes," Yatsuya Miko quickly said. Luke nodded solemnly. "That's a very powerful talent." "A talent?" Yatsuya Miko asked quizzically. "Yeah, of course it's a talent, for an exorcist." Luke didn't hesitate to explain some things to her. After all, for an ordinary girl, such a talent was too heavy a burden. "Exorcist?" Yatsuya Miko murmured to herself, thinking. Luke continued, "For exorcists, people born with yin-yang eyes are extremely rare. I wasn't born with it. Yatsuya Miko interrupted. Born with yin-yang eyes, that means this person's spiritual sense. Luke stopped talking, turning to stare blankly at Yatsuya Miko. Not born with it. Yatsuya Miko gave a cute nod. Luke realized something was wrong and stared intently at Yatsuya Miko. Logically speaking, or rather, based on experience, the talent of yin-yang eyes could only be innate, present from birth. Kasumi's Ecchi was such an example. He had never seen this talent develop later in life. Even exorcists with the highest spiritual sense needed alternative methods to observe ghosts. Yatsuya Miko looked at him worriedly. Luke continued, "Do you know ghost stories?" "I know some." Yatsuya Miko nodded. Luke shared some experience with her. "Then you should also know about certain similarities. For example, when people in stories encounter ghosts, common scenarios include swinging on a swing, washing hair, looking in a mirror. Actually, these are ways to see ghosts with the naked eye." Luke explained simply. Except for those born with yin-yang eyes, other exorcists need methods like these to see ghosts. Humans and ghosts walk different paths. To see beings from another world with just your own two eyes, you need alternative methods. Like how I clenched my fist earlier, leaving a gap, and observed through the gap. But yin-yang eyes developing later in life like yours, I've never heard of it. So I think you must have gone through something. Listening to his words, Yatsuya Miko didn't feel fear or other negative emotions. She just wanted to know. "Can I close my yin-yang eyes?" "You can't," Luke said decisively. "Can talents like these be casually discarded? Unless you don't want these eyes anymore. Then you won't see ghosts." "I still want my eyes," Yatsuya Miko said, sweating slightly. "Then that settles it." Yatsuya Miko's lips moved, wanting to ask something else. Luke stood up. "Come on. Although I don't know what happened to you, regardless, let me test the talent of your yin-yang eyes first." Yatsuya Miko looked at him, puzzled. Between the streets and alleys, in a deserted backlane full of rubble and trash, these were the places most likely to hide filth, considered prime real estate for evil spirits. And sure enough, as Yatsuya Miko walked in, dense swarms of evil spirits crowded before her eyes. "Can you see? Did you see me? Look at me." Hoarse, terrifying, chaotic ramblings of madmen exploded beside her ears. So scary, so afraid. Yatsuya Miko's eyes, staring at the terrifying scene before her, misted over again, her heart filled with fear and despair. Helplessness and terror showed in her eyes, but she desperately suppressed the sorrow within, not daring to let the tears fall. Her lips trembled, teeth biting down hard on her lower lip to stop herself from letting out whimpering sobs. Her body shivered slightly, as if buffeted by an icy wind. She clutched her sleeves and involuntarily turned her head, looking pitifully at Luke. Do I really have to do this?" Yatsuya Miko, looking utterly pitiable, trembled as she spoke. Looking at Yatsuya Miko, who wanted to cry but didn't dare, Luke felt a strange pang of guilt. What are you afraid of?" "I'm here." "Oh, okay." Yatsuya Miko turned her head back, looked at the three massive heads looming above her, mustered her courage, and shouted, "You bunch of ugly freaks. She can see. She sees. Kill her." Frenzied screams shrieked beside her ears. Yatsuya Miko fled in panic, the evil spirits close behind. Luke took out the Book of Strength, clenched his fist. Confirmed, this girl isn't just simple yin-yang eyes. "Ah!" Yatsuya Miko tripped on the scattered stones, stumbling and falling into his arms. "Ooh. So scary but so happy, I actually got to do that to those ugly, terrifying things." Yatsuya Miko snuggled in his arms, happily clenching her small fists. "Hurry up and say it." Luke supported her with his left arm. The group opposite them had noticed him too. Yatsuya Miko hadn't even had time to enjoy the thrill of yelling at the evil spirits before she had to keep shouting as instructed, "Please help me exorcise this evil spirit. Please help me exorcise this evil spirit. Please help me. Leave it to me." Luke punched an oncoming evil spirit, scattering them one by one. Chapter 26, Good Teacher and Helpful Friend, Life Mentor. Notification, Occupation Mission, Exorcist, Kick the Ghosts' Butts. Help others with supernatural problems completed, 20 out of 20. You have received a reward, Dream Necklace. Dream Necklace. When wearing this necklace and entering sleep, you can enter the dreams of the nearest person. You can move freely, but if your presence exists within this dream, you will be subject to certain constraints by the dream's host. You can also freely enter dreams whose content includes you. Notification, you have received a new mission, Occupation Mission, Exorcist. You have a place in the exorcism world. It's time to pass down your skills. Train 1 Apprentice. Training Standard, Able to eliminate evil spirits independently, 0 out of 1. Well, damn. Originally, he planned to have Yatsuya Miko issue him requests, 1 request per evil spirit. Then he would eliminate these spirits one by one to grind the progress of his occupation mission. Then this stupid system gave him a new type of mission. It has intelligence, doesn't it? Just when he thought he found a way to exploit a bug, it changed the mission after only 1 completion. Previously, it was always missions to solve 10 or 20 supernatural problems. Really? Alright, stop shouting, that's enough. Luke called out to Yatsuya Miko. Since the system changed the mission, let it be. Oh. Yatsuya Miko regretfully stopped shouting. Looking at the now empty and tidy alley, she excitedly bounced on her feet. Let's go. Luke tugged the back of her collar. Luke took the girl to a dessert shop and randomly ordered some food. Luke then carefully observed the girl before him. Honestly, he was somewhat surprised. This girl had yin-yang eyes, the talent to perceive ghosts and spirits clearly. People generally believed to be able to communicate with the dead are called spirit mediums. Spirit mediums can sense, see, or hear the spirits of the deceased and, to some extent, interpret and convey their messages. And traditionally, only a very small number of people have the potential to be spirit mediums. These individuals invariably carry the bloodline continuation of their ancestors. If it were just yin-yang eyes, whether innate or acquired wouldn't matter, but the key was Yatsuya Miko could not only see evil spirits but also some ordinary souls. Under her gaze, these ordinary souls would actually get entangled with and attack her. This was truly unheard of. With abilities like hers, Luke felt a term Kazekage and the others often used was most suitable to describe her reincarnation of an evil spirit or yokai. Yatsuya Miko sucked on her sundae, occasionally looking up to see Luke still watching her. What's wrong? She asked softly. Nothing. But, are you sure nothing strange happened to you? Luke frowned, asking again. Acquired yin-yang eyes were really strange. Yatsuya Miko could only shake her head. Nothing happened. Luke nodded silently, picking up his spoon and gently digging into the strawberry cake in front of him. After hesitating for a long time, Yatsuya Miko watched the sundae level continuously drop. Finally, unable to hold back, she mustered her courage and spoke that. Luke stopped chewing, his thoughts interrupted. See, can you teach me how to exorcise spirits? Can I become your apprentice? Yatsuya Miko blurted it out in one breath, feeling a sense of relief. But as Luke's spoon tapped up and down lightly, she tensed up again. Yatsuya Miko's whole body stiffened, her expression nervous. Her hands tightly gripped the cold glass, suppressing her panic. At this moment, she felt like a criminal awaiting the judge's verdict. If it's not okay, then forget it. Yatsuya Miko awkwardly rubbed the glass. I can. I agree. Luke said faintly. Ah. Yatsuya Miko cried out in pleasant surprise. Luke ignored the beaming girl, lowering his head to contemplate her training method. Unlike proper exorcists like Kazekage, he didn't know any rituals or incantation-type skills. He relied on items left by his elders and rewards from the system for exorcism. Perhaps a traditional exorcist like Kazekage would be more suitable for Yatsuya Miko? Forget it, Yatsuya Miko would be worked to death. That shady merchant. Besides, the current priority was to make her stop fearing evil spirits and build up the courage to face them. It's decided then. Luke stood up and said to Yatsuya Miko, my name is Luke, professional exorcist. Call me whatever you like. I plan to teach you my specialty first physical exorcism technique. Physical? Exorcism technique? Yatsuya Miko tilted her head, looking at him quizzically. Luke took out the Book of Strength. The way of exorcism lies within. In a park sandbox. Yatsuya Miko stood trembling before an evil spirit. Watching the humanoid spirit wriggling towards her, dragging its bloated, ball-like belly, her heart trembled, and her legs too. Don't be afraid. Even the strongest evil spirit is just a mere soul. Compared to humans with physical bodies, they have a natural disadvantage. Luke sat on the swing, instructing his new apprentice, Yatsuya Miko. What you need to do now is infuse your attacks with your conviction, instead of letting fear drive you. That will only make it stronger. Yatsuya Miko swallowed dryly twice. Can you see? The evil spirit lay prone on the ground, lifting its head to ask her frantically. Strike with conviction. Yatsuya Miko murmured his earlier words, looking at the approaching spirit. Conviction, conviction. Yatsuya Miko mustered her courage and threw a punch with all her might. Ah! I did it. Yatsuya Miko hit the evil spirit's body and felt a wave of relief wash over her. But the evil spirit didn't turn to ash as she expected. She can see. She can see. The evil spirit roared, grabbing at Yatsuya Miko. Teacher, Save me. Yatsuya Miko turned tail and ran in panic. Miko, don't run towards me, I won't interfere. Like I said, don't let fear drive you. Luke swung on the swing, flying into the air, watching Miko approach, covering her mouth, little pearls, tears, falling. Miko shook the little pearls off her face and could only turn to flee again. Good luck. Luke cheered her on. As his body swung back and forth with the swing, his thoughts became serene. A child like Yatsuya Miko, developing yin-yang eyes later in life, must have had a difficult life. Yet, she was fortunate enough to meet a good teacher and helpful friend, a life mentor like himself, at a critical moment. Just as the common saying goes, associating with good people is like entering a room full of orchids. Over time, you become fragrant yourself. Associating with bad people is like entering a fish market. Over time, you stink yourself. Luke glanced at Yatsuya Miko in the center of the field, being chased all over by the evil spirit. Having a teacher like him. I really envy her. Really, compared to a certain someone who trains students with go-karts, I'm already merciful enough. Chapter 27, The road home is ultimately arduous. Who knows how much time passed? Luke looked at the very blue sky, the very white clouds. Miko, in the center of the park, had managed to somewhat calm herself down, no longer shedding little pearls because of the crawling evil spirit following behind her. Luke sighed. It was a sigh of relief, definitely not a sigh because he could no longer see Miko's expression of wanting to cry but not daring to. Alright, let's stop here for today. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Luke got off the swing and tossed the wooden sword in his hand to the girl. Yatsuya Miko, who was strolling leisurely, caught the beechwood sword strangely. Kill you, the evil spirit dragging its ball-shaped belly behind still crawled slowly. I guess you won't be able to accept dealing with evil spirits with your fists right away. Use this for now. Luke pointed at the tireless evil spirit crawling over beside them. I'll lend it to you for a day. When I get back, I'll pick out a few items for you. Now, finish it off with the wooden sword first. Hearing his words, Yatsuya Miko nodded firmly, reversed her grip on the wooden sword, slowly walked up to the evil spirit, and stabbed down heavily. With a sizzle, the evil spirit, just like before, turned into ashes that scattered in the wind. Ah! Yatsuya Miko's tense mind inexplicably relaxed a lot. The yin-yang eye talent she had suddenly awakened a few days ago allowed her to see these evil spirits and ghosts living alongside humans. Ever-present evil spirits, constantly whispering in her ear, asking if she could see. The Buddhist beads and other items she bought were completely useless against them. She could only pretend they didn't exist, couldn't tell her friends or family. But now. So tired, but so relieved. Yatsuya Miko felt fatigue wash over her body, biting her lip to stop the tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. Luke took out his phone. Couldn't be helped, the world was just like this. To describe it in Hiratsuka-sensei's words, this world is neither gentle nor kind. So living is exhausting. But Yatsuya Miko was ultimately a strong girl and quickly stopped her tears. Unfortunately. Let's call it a day here. It's time for me to catch the train back too. Luke showed his phone. Add me as a friend. After the wave of fatigue, Yatsuya Miko was filled with a newfound sense of security. If you break or lose it, I might just turn into an evil spirit myself. Luke glanced at Yatsuya Miko. She gripped the wooden sword tightly. I'll take good care of it. Returning to the vicinity of his home from Yatsuya Miko's place, it was around 5 or 6 in the afternoon. The bustling crowd on the shopping street hadn't been much. Luke planned to head to the dessert shop he always frequented. Although he wasn't particularly fond of sweets, he had a special liking for pudding and cream. Besides, stocking up on some bread meant that he and Mikasa, the two big eaters, wouldn't have to rummage through cabinets starving at night. Walking forward briskly, Luke suddenly saw a familiar blonde girl standing in front of the toy store, contemplating deeply. Yumeko. Ran into someone I shouldn't have. Better take a detour. Hey. A clear shout, but definitely not calling him, Luke was sure. Luke. My name's not that. Forget it. Unable to abandon his name, Luke turned his head. Oh, it's Mira-san. Yumeko, already fuming, glared at him with increasingly dangerous eyes, silent. Luke looked at her puzzled, unsure where all her anger came from. Maybe get some cupping therapy to cool down, girl. Yeah, hello. A short-haired girl with glasses popped out from beside Yumeko. What a strange greeting. Luke glanced over. Oh, it was that Fujishi. Her name. Eba something na. Seeing Luke standing there dazed, Yumeko's crossed arms involuntarily drooped in exasperation. Ebanehina. How can you not even remember a classmate's name? Didn't I tell you before? Yeah. I remember your name. and the name of the person in front of you. Hee hee. After saying that, Ebenahina fell into her strange state again, drool unconsciously appearing at the corner of her mouth. Luke was speechless. This Fujishi was probably imagining something weird in her head again. He really wanted to pry open her skull and see if it contained brains or waste. But out of politeness, Luke still nodded in acknowledgement. To avoid more trouble, he glanced at the blonde girl wearing her short skirt and decided to speak first. Miro-san, is your knee better? Hearing his words, Miro Yumiko's face suddenly turned red, and she inexplicably attacked. My knee is perfectly fine. Stop having weird thoughts, you jerk. Catch. Luke caught the little bee plushie thrown like a hidden weapon, his gaze shifting to Miro Yumiko's knee. The scar was already gone. Hey. Your gaze is making me a little uncomfortable. Miro Yumiko said bluntly, shifting her knee slightly. Ah. Luke-san actually likes girls like Yumiko? Ebenahina beside them immediately said, shocked, a look of regret clearly visible on her face. Finally, a hopeless sigh escaped her lips. Sigh. What do you mean girls like me? Hina, you better explain yourself. Miro Yumiko furiously grabbed Ebenahina by the neck. I was wrong. Spare me, Yumiko. Ebenahina's body swayed back and forth with the blonde girl's force, desperately begging for mercy. Watching the two acting out their routine, Luke's brow furrowed deeply. Why don't you two form a comedy duo and debut already? Call yourselves the comedy duo. So shameless. Luke walked past the two speechlessly. I have things to do, so I'll take my leave first. Miro Yumiko watched Luke pass by, confused, her hand loosening slightly. OF. Survived. Ebenahina collapsed limply on the ground, weakly rubbing her neck. Let's go, Hina. Miro Yumiko quickly followed, calling out to Ebenahina. Why are you two following me? Luke asked helplessly, looking at the two girls now beside him, watching him. To prevent you from doing strange things to other women. Miro Yumiko said. Hee hee. No need to look, that was Ebenahina's laugh. Whatever. Luke took out a little bee plushie and handed it to Miro Yumiko. Don't you two have your own business here? Miro Yumiko took the plushie back into her bag. A friend's birthday is coming up. Hina and I came over to pick out a gift. We're already done. Go home early then. Walking at night makes it easy to encounter unclean things. Luke made a final effort. If we really encounter something, we'll leave it to you then. Miro Yumiko naturally issued the command. Then, she asked softly, do you want to come to the birthday party? Look. You usually don't have chances to interact with classmates. That birthday party. Not going. Luke refused decisively. Ah. But I'm sincerely inviting you. Miro Yumiko started attacking his ear again. Luke looked up at the sky. Sigh. Chapter 28. Miro Yumiko still sent the text. Miro Yumiko relentlessly questioned the boy. Luke nodded weakly. Right now, he just wanted to be like a normal high school student, curled up on the sofa, watching TV, hugging his maid. Eating pudding. Beside them, the closely following Fujishi, Ebenahina, looked strangely at Miro Yumiko, who was acting completely different from usual. Miro Yumiko, known as the Flame Queen in school, lived up to her nickname. Her social initiative was like a blazing fire, she herself had gathered her friends and companions together. Like selecting concubines, Miro Yumiko, at the top tier of school life, could freely choose the companions she wanted to gather around her. And so, they became the top normie group in their grade. What was strange was, Yumiko wasn't forcefully demanding this boy to join, but sincerely asking. Connecting this with their earlier discussion about Yumiko's knee. A storm brewed in Ebenahina's mind. She stopped her train of thought. Thinking further wouldn't be good, she didn't want to lose her current friends. I have work after school, and besides, I don't really know the other classmates well. Even just sitting there alone would be considered good. Luke said as the dessert shop staff packed his sweets. If I make the classmates unhappy because of me, then that would be a sin, Miro-san. Miro Yumiko opened her mouth, with me there. But Luke interrupted, Miro-san, we're not strangers. You know I have more important things to do. There are always people who need help. Miro Yumiko remembered his exorcism work and closed her mouth. Luke smiled, took out 2 puddings, and handed one to each girl. This shop's cream pudding is delicious. Try it. Ah. Thank you, thank you. Ebenahina quickly accepted. Miro Yumiko also reached out and took the pudding he handed her. Looking at his smile, she hesitated for a moment, then spoke softly, oh okay, but if you want to find friends, just leave it to me. Her calm tone suddenly turned prickly, like a cat bristling. She quickly added, don't get the wrong idea. Just consider it payment for helping me before. Of course. If I need it, I'll definitely find you. Luke nodded amusingly. Then I'll be off first. Got it. Go, go. Yumiko waved her hand haughtily. Luke slowly disappeared from their sight. Looking at the strange Yumiko, Hina decided to do something. She breathed softly into Yumiko's ear. You've fallen for someone else, Yumiko. Ah. Attacked in the ear, Yumiko jolted awake, her face bright red as she desperately shook Hina's shoulders. Are you trying to die? Hina. Besides, how could I fall for someone else? That guy compared to Hayama, where is he? Good? Ah. So withdrawn, bad personality, anyway, I still like Hayama. After finishing, Yumiko thought for a moment and added an affirmative nasal sound. I understand, please spare me. Hina went limp in Yumiko's strong arms, her head swaying. She felt like her soul had already left her body. I'll let you off this time. Why, you better not talk nonsense. Yumiko helped Hina up, patting her arms. Oh, I survived. Hina looked up at the sky, still shaken. It's good to be alive. Let's stop here, Yumiko. I want to go home and revive myself by reading some manga. Hina said wistfully. Alright. Anyway, the gift is already bought. Let's call it a day. Yumiko also rubbed her tired shoulders. Then I'm going home for dinner. See you at school, Yumiko. Hina waved. Bye. Bye. Without lingering, Yumiko picked up her shopping bag, turned, and left. Her way home was the exact opposite of Hina's. Whoever you choose, I'll support you, Yumiko. Hina's voice came from behind the blonde girl. Eh? What are you talking about now? Yumiko turned her head speechlessly, only to see Hina's incredibly serious gaze. Yumiko paused her agitated emotions for a moment. You. Yumiko took out the bee plushie and pressed it against Hina's chest. You're so dishonest with yourself, but towards others. Why are you always like this to others? It would be much better if you showed more of yourself. Because being friends with you guys makes me happy. Hina said simply. Fine, it's yours. Diligent little bee. Yumiko waved her hand. Nighttime. Yumiko lay prone on her bed, holding her brightly lit phone high above her head, her face buried deep in the pillow. OF. Her mind was filled with Hina's earlier words. What's so good about that guy? So withdrawn he doesn't fit in. Not gentle towards girls either. His work is dangerous and scary. His aesthetic sense is bad too, wears those stupid glasses every day. Doesn't listen to advice either. What's the big deal about going to a birthday party to make some friends? Yumiko muttered, lifting her head to look at the phone screen. Hayama is still better. Sunny, handsome, sociable, treats people. OF. Yumiko buried her head back into the soft pillow, fiercely squeezing the dog plushie beside her. Hayama Hayato was indeed good, almost perfect in every aspect, approachable, good personality. But that applied to everyone. Besides, he was the center of the group, doing everything possible to maintain stability, thus sacrificing himself and refusing change. Any suggestive hopes would be met with vague deflections, just like Hina's description of Hayama doing nothing. And did she really like him? It seemed, initially, just like Hina and Yue, she just thought he was cute. Even now. Holding her breath in the pillow, Yumiko finally lifted her head when she couldn't breathe anymore, looking at the phone screen in her hand. It showed her chat interface with Luke. Although there wasn't a single message exchanged between them. As the top normie group member in school, adding a classmate as a friend was very simple for her. Even in reality, she personally picked out the cute girls one by one to join her group. Yue, Hina. But, strangely, looking at the chat box, Yumiko felt like she was looking at an insurmountable chasm. I haven't properly thanked him yet. Yumiko found an excuse, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Thank you for before, delete. Yumiko speechlessly looked at the chat interface, back to square one. She shifted her gaze to the unopened cream pudding on her vanity table. The pudding you gave me was delicious, delete. Arg. Is making a friend this hard? Fuming, Yumiko pushed herself up onto her knees, fiercely grabbed the plushie, and slammed it onto the bed. Ko. Hoo. Can't take it anymore, whatever. Yumiko grabbed her phone and furiously typed out a word send. How long has it been? Luke asked Danny, who was sitting cross-legged on his back. He was doing a plank on the floor, sweat constantly dripping from his cheeks. 10 minutes. Annie replied calmly, eating pudding and watching TV. Get off. Luke said painfully, his waist couldn't take it anymore. Then he saw his phone light up. It was actually Yumiko sending him a message. Luke opened it, idiot, appeared prominently on the screen. Lying powerlessly on the floor, Luke stared blankly at the word. What's wrong with Miura? What happened? Chapter 29, The Wedding in the Dream. Luke looked down at the suit he was wearing and fiddled with the dream necklace. So this is Mikaze's dream? He looked around at the flower baskets surrounding them and the various colorful flowers scattered everywhere. This is a wedding venue? Stepping onto the grass beneath his feet, Luke looked up towards the high ground. Around him was only an endless meadow and a blue sky. Besides himself, the only living person, he didn't see anyone else. Suddenly, his body moved involuntarily. Luke was startled. He forcefully regained control of his body. Managed that quite easily. Luke stood in place, twisting his body, fighting against the force the dream owner exerted on him. But not for long. After resisting for a while, Luke relaxed his strength. He believed that even in a dream, Mikaze wouldn't harm him. Let's see what Mikaze is doing. So, he allowed the power generated between the dream and his mind to carry him forward towards the high ground. A gentle breeze blew, making the green grass sway. The world within Mikaze Ackerman's dream seemed to consist only of this meadow. Luke slowly walked towards the raised ground of the meadow. A white veil gradually came into his view. It was Mikaze, wearing a wedding dress. You came. Mikaze, wearing a white veil, turned around. She held a bouquet of colorful flowers tightly in her hands. The gentle curve of her lips made her delicate and beautiful face even softer and more moving. Luke swallowed twice, looking at Mikaze Ackerman, who was completely different from her usual self. Very beautiful. He praised her sincerely, looking at Mikaze, who appeared exceptionally holy and beautiful beneath the white wedding dress, just like an angel from people's imagination. She showed a rare, radiant smile, slowly approaching him, freely displaying her love. I love you. Knowing he was in a dream, he wasn't shy either and played along with Mikaze. Me too. Mikaze buried her delicate head against his chest, gently savoring the scent there. Of course, who knew if one could actually smell things in a dream? Mikaze, usually like a goddess of war, had now reverted to her girlish nature, simply and cutely nestling in his embrace. Luke gently hugged Mikaze in his arms, his gaze scanning the surroundings. The scenery remained unchanged. This likely meant Mikaze's inner desire was just this. Having one's own wedding was naturally wonderful, but in her heart, perhaps just simply being together with him was enough. Poor Annie has no place here, Luke said amusingly. Annie. Hearing his words, Mikaze abruptly looked up, her gaze serious. That demon? Demon? Luke asked lightly, puzzled. As his words fell, everything around them remained unchanged, but a strange whirlwind gathered around them. A wedding? A clear, cold voice echoed from midair. Luke looked up. PFFT. Haha. Luke couldn't help but burst out laughing, seeing Annie dressed in a black dress, holding a bright red trident, with black feathered wings behind her and a heart-shaped tail on her rear. Annie ignored the unrestrained Luke, flapped her black wings, and landed lightly on the grass, extending her hand. In a clear, cold voice, she spoke fiery words, "Come with me. I'll give you an ecstatic night. Don't be tempted by her. Don't be fooled by her calmness. Once she gets you in bed, she'll reveal her succubus nature and drain you dry." Beside him, Knight Mikaze Ackerman, wearing a sturdy meteorite iron helmet and chainmail armor, holding a sharp sword and round shield, stood protectively in front of him. Even if you really want this succubus, it must be under my supervision. Nuisance. Annie said coolly, thrusting her trident into the ground beside her. Her hand formed the shape of drawing a bow out of thin air. Careful. Mikaze Ackerman swung her arm, raising her round shield to block the heart-shaped arrow shooting through the air. Dreamscape, Knight Mikaze fights succubus Annie to protect love now serializing. Luke watched the two confronting each other happily. I haven't been this happy in a long time, really want to keep watching. But there's no time. Knight Mikaze Ackerman and succubus Annie Lenhart turned their heads to look quizzically at his smiling face. Luke extended his arm, making a heart shape with his thumb and index finger. See you in reality. He flicked his fingers lightly. Snap. The fingers snap echoed. The dreamscape collapsed completely. Ah. Luke stretched contentedly, glancing at the clock, 6:30. A bit early. But weekends were truly comfortable, he could enjoy perfect sleep. Looking at Mikaze beside him, still sleeping soundly with a frown, Luke reached out and gently ruffled her hair. With his movement, Mikaze, who had her arms crossed defensively, relaxed her posture. Her tight frown smoothed out, revealing the ample softness of her chest. Both were in their birth state, wearing nothing. The bedsheets, just changed yesterday, needed changing again today. Last night's abstinence plan utter failure. Right, still need to prepare some exorcism tools for Miko. Luke opened his phone messages. Yesterday, He had already explained Yatsuya Miko's situation in detail to Kazekage and other exorcists, asking them to help prepare some exorcism tools. After all, he wasn't from a traditional school, and most of his tools were disposable. Looking at the message Kazekage sent him this morning, Luke nodded. Time to prepare. Are you going out? Mikoza was woken by his movements. You keep sleeping. I'll just grab some bread to eat on the way, Luke said, starting to get dressed. Mikoza's voice was like a mosquito's buzz. Perhaps disturbed by the wedding dream, the current Mikoza was completely different from usual. Her usual old married couple state seemed to have reverted to the shyness of new love. Her face flushed red as she pulled the covers up, hiding the revealed spring scenery, covering herself right up to her mouth. Her clear spring-like eyes stared straight at Luke. Luke felt quite uncomfortable being stared at and asked softly, "What's wrong?" He had never seen her sick before. Mikoza's moist, sparkling eyes gazed into his, thick with affection drawing threads between them. Strangely, she pulled the covers up even further, hiding her entire body and head underneath, only extending a fair, tender arm from the side. Luke rarely saw such a scene. Amused, he sat beside her and gently held her hand. Mikoza Ackerman's muffled voice came from under the covers. "I dreamed we got married. Isn't that great? Consider it a rehearsal." Luke played with her delicate fingers, but Mikoza only wanted to hold onto him tightly. Under the covers, Mikoza didn't speak again. After sitting like that for a while, unsure if she could even breathe under there, Luke tapped his fingers. "I need to head out. Can I go with you today?" "Ah, sure you can." Chapter 30, Pudding. Yatsuya Miko groggily woke from her sleep, staring blankly at the sunlit room, her black hair scattered loosely around her body. Pulling her light blue pajamas tighter, Yatsuya Miko swallowed twice, took a deep breath, and slowly opened the covers. Seeing only her own legs clad in sky blue pajamas, Yatsuya Miko let out a deep sigh of relief. No ugly evil spirit crawling out from under the covers like the day before yesterday. But, even if there was, she could defeat it. Yatsuya Miko gripped the wooden sword beside her bed, a sense of security washing over her. "I managed to eliminate that evil spirit in the bathroom yesterday. This way, I won't be scared by evil spirits anymore." Yatsuya Miko clenched her small fists. Slipping off her light green pajama top, Miko adjusted her underwear. The friction of the soft fabric against her front made her cheeks flush slightly. "They've grown bigger again," Yatsuya Miko muttered. "Should have bought a new bra yesterday too. Don't know when teacher will arrive. Should I go look at bras first?" After changing, Miko walked out of her room. "Are you going out today too?" Miko's mother, Yatsuya Tuko, asked, looking at her fully dressed daughter. Yatsuya Miko replied spiritedly. "Honestly, it's the holidays, and you don't even spend time with your family." Miko's father grumbled under his breath. "Family, family." The giant evil spirit beside the dining table echoed. "Eat breakfast before you go," Yatsuya Tuko called after her. "I'll just grab something outside," Yatsuya Miko said. "There's pudding in the fridge." Yatsuya Miko's steps paused. She hesitated for a moment. "Pudding?" Yatsuya father looked up from his newspaper. "Pudding, pudding." The evil spirit echoed. Yatsuya Miko quickly ran to the fridge and took out the yellow pudding inside. "Pudding, pudding." The evil spirit cried, extending its hard claws like a puppy. "No, you can't. That's Miko's pudding." Miko's father scolded it. "Miko. Pudding." The evil spirit stopped its movement but still brought its face close to Miko, gently sniffing the pudding in her hand. Yatsuya Miko held the pudding, holding back the little pearls, tears, in her eyes. She placed the pudding in front of her father's memorial portrait and clasped her hands together. "Since Dad and the dog passed away, I never thought I'd have a chance to see them again. Although I can't communicate with them, this is enough. I will live my life well," Yatsuya Miko prayed silently. After praying, Yatsuya Miko picked up the wooden sword placed near the entrance and ran out of the room. "Ah, so I'm already dead." Miko's father scratched his head, troubled. "Dead, dead." The evil spirit echoed continuously. Luke sat on a park bench. Since it was morning, no one else was here playing, so he could comfortably arrange Miko's training being chased around by evil spirits. To put it bluntly, it was training for physical fitness and mental fortitude. No matter when, whether studying or exorcising, a strong body and an incomparably tough mind were both crucially important. "I'm not just an exorcism mentor, but also a life mentor." Luke shamelessly put his arm around Mikoza, who had followed him, and slumped back on the bench, looking at the sky. "Is that the girl you mentioned with the acquired yin-yang eyes?" A voice sounded from behind. It was Kazumizuki's voice. Luke tilted his head back. Still the trademark Miko outfit, Buddhist beads and bracelets tied around her hand, but Luke didn't see the exorcism tools she was supposed to bring. Are the tools very small? He scanned Kazekage body up and down suspiciously. I'm asking you a question. Seeing his scrutinizing gaze, like inspecting a criminal, Kazekage walked over to the bench, stood there, and asked speechlessly. Can't you see? Luke pointed at the evil spirit chasing Miko. Kazekage pouted, looking at the scene in the field. Miko, clutching her sleeves, covering her face while fleeing, constantly shedding little pearls, looking utterly pitiful. Kazekage looked speechlessly at Luke. Are you a dog? Luke pouted too, pointing at Kazekage. My Kaza, beat her up. Kazekage immediately adopted a defensive stance. This guy's maid was truly single-minded, doing whatever Luke said, completely disregarding ethics or laws, shamelessly attacking a young girl who was only 18 years and 144 months old. The key was, her proficient Aikido was like child's play against the maid's heavy punches. Don't feel like moving. But my Kaza, hearing his words, snuggled closer in his arms, not wanting to fight. Fine then. Luke didn't mind either, affectionately stroking the black-haired maid's head. Phew. Kazekage let out an inexplicable sigh of relief, shooting a fierce glare at the two. Shameless couple. No shame in public. PFFT, disgraceful. Where are the tools you brought? Luke asked. Hold on. Kazekage lifted the hem of her Miko skirt, fumbled around slightly, and pulled out a box. Here. Luke scanned her suspiciously. Where did you pull that out from? What's with the... Kazekage placed the box aside, extended her palm, and softly chanted an incantation. As her fingers twisted rhythmically, she slapped the pursuing evil spirit into fragments. Luke applauded lightly. This Miko serving the gods really looks cool when exorcising. Too bad he wasn't willing to dedicate his life to some so-called god. Teacher. Miko stumbled over. Having been chased by the evil spirit, she felt like her soul could leave her body and fight the spirit head-on. Seeing Miko getting closer, the fully recharged Mikaza quickly stood up from his embrace, warily placing both hands on Miko's shoulders. Thank you. Miko said, exhausted, not sensing Mikaza's defensiveness. Miko, right? Kazekage smiled, took out her gloved hand, bent down, and gently pinched Miko's cute cheek. Like a fox that had stolen a chicken. Ah. Miko was so scared her legs went weak, and she stumbled backward uncontrollably. Ho ho ho. So cute. Kazekage, having teased her, showed a perverted smile. Luke watched her speechlessly. Don't look at me like that. Kazekage narrowed her eyes and straightened up. Seeing a little one with the same talent really delights me. Miko, right? Just call me On-chan. Luke pointed at Kazekage and briefly introduced her to Miko. Her name is Kazekage, exorcist, 30 years old this year, has yin-yang eyes just like you. Just call her auntie. Kazekage shot him a fierce glare. Luke wouldn't indulge her and glared right back. What? Aren't you 30? Seriously, you acted mature when you were young, and now you want to act young when you're older. Beside them, the obedient Miko quickly interrupted their argument. I'll just call you Kazekage Nichan. On-chan isn't suitable. So obedient. Kazekage beamed at Miko, then shot another fierce glare at Luke. She changes her face so fast. Right, I brought you some tools. Kazekage remembered the main business and pulled out some items from the box. Buddhist beads. Dagger. Talismans. Exorcism mirror. Kazekage pulled out a whole pile of things from the box, equipping Miko like an exorcism tank that neither humans nor ghosts dared approach. Chapter 31, Reverse Clap. Just leave these two items. She don't need the extra stuff. Luke picked up a talisman, a dagger, and the Buddhist beads, tossing the rest back to Kazekage. TSK. Why are you so stingy? Kazekage put her hands on her hips, pointing haughtily at Luke. It's rare to get a student. What's wrong with buying a little more? No money. Unless you give them to me for free. In your dreams. Luke stood up, handing the Buddhist beads to Miko. The dark brown beads were only finger-sized, they might fit perfectly on her hand. Yatsuya Miko held the beads, wrapping them round and round her smooth, fair forearm. Forget it, leave it like this. Better than nothing. Luke said, looking at the beads that almost completely covered Miko's slender forearm, nearly becoming a bracer. The beads are small, but there are many of them. And the number couldn't be reduced. These beads were all inscribed with characters. Although he didn't know their meaning, he knew that if even one bead was missing, the effectiveness of the string would be greatly diminished. Luke glanced at Kazekage and said speechlessly, don't you have any with fewer beads? Yes. Of course, I do. But given her spiritual sensitivity, Do you think less powerful tools would be useful against strong evil spirits? Kazekage shot him a look. True. Luke nodded in agreement. Then leave it like this. Vigor has its advantages, right? After all, besides encountering evil spirits, maybe if she runs into a bad guy, she can use it like brass knuckles. Miko, Kazekage put away the box, stuffing it under her skirt. Don't say such violent things to a child. Teacher, then this. Miko timidly held the dagger covered in runes and seals, asking softly. The gleaming metallic edge made her a little scared. Maybe it was fear of the sharp blade, but even under the sun, she could still feel waves of cold air spreading from it in her hand, along with the lingering stench of blood in the air. Luke's spirit attribute wasn't low. Naturally, he could also sense that this dagger was a dangerous weapon. There was a saying in the supernatural world, evil spirits fear evil people. This also applied to spiritual items. Only dangerous weapons could most effectively subdue evil spirits. But, Miko still didn't dare to put it away. Just keep it in your pocket or something. Anyway, this dagger isn't big. Luke said casually. The talisman is for exorcism, the beads for defense, the dagger for offense, a good combination. No matter how scary this dagger is, it won't actively harm people. Just be careful yourself. Then he quickly urged Miko. Don't just stand here. Find an evil spirit, test if the spiritual items work well. Luke's words made Miko stiffen all over. Although she had adapted much more than before, facing an evil spirit alone still made her little heart pound wildly. I'll go right now. But under the pressure of his gaze, Miko mustered her courage, scanned her surroundings, and searched for an evil spirit. With Mikaze guarding her, Miko gradually walked away. Got it? Luke asked Kazekage. Kazekage nodded, producing a strand of black hair from her palm. She gently pinched the hair, rubbing it between her fingertips. Very clean hair, not a speck of dust on it. Looks like the hair's young owner took good care of her appearance. Although it's not as good as blood, nails, or the like, it's enough for one divination. Kazekage analyzed casually. This was the result Kazekage obtained when she got close to Miko, a single strand of Yatsuya Miko's hair. Let me take a look. Kazekage wiped the constant smile off her face, calmly removing the glove covering her hand. Let's see if she's really what you said. An evil spirit reincarnated, or just a simple girl. With the glove off, Kazekage flexed her hand. Her right hand was smooth and clean, no different from an ordinary person's. But her left hand was covered in scars, full of crisscrossing marks left by sharp blades. The palm lines were barely visible, and the connections between her fingers and palm had unsettling stitch marks. Been through a lot, huh? Luke remarked. Don't worry. Although it's been chopped quite a bit, with my exclusive medicine and the blessings of the gods, this hand can still move flexibly, no different from a normal hand. Kazekage maneuvered her fingers, making wave-like motions in front of her chest. Luke nodded silently. Beginning the ritual, Kazekage lightly cut her palm. Blood gradually seeped from the cut and was gently squeezed onto the hair by its owner. The offering was ready. Kazekage handed him a mirror, ordering concisely, hold this steady. I want to see her past life. Oh. Luke nodded, taking Kazegage's mirror. Kazekage took a deep breath, reversed her hands so the backs faced each other, and gently clapped them together. Reverse clap. An urban horror legend flashed through Luke's mind. The principle of the reverse clap was to clap hands in the opposite way. In traditional clapping, people usually strike the palms of both hands together, while the reverse clap involves hitting the backs of the hands together. Just like his earlier method of seeing ghosts, observing through the small gap in his fist was an alternative way. This reverse clap was similar. Monks pressing their palms together was usually seen as respect towards deities, used for prayer or meditation, a sacred gesture. But filthy, dirty evil spirits couldn't perform the action of putting palms together, so their clapping could only take the form of the reverse clap. And humans performing the reverse clap was generally seen as a way to express negative emotions like dissatisfaction, disapproval, or disagreement. But in the eyes of exorcists, it meant more than that. It signified sending a signal to the evil spirits wandering the spirit world, although generally, such actions were useless. But for Kazekage, of Miko serving the gods with innate yin-yang eyes, the reverse clap was not useless. Her gaze fixed tightly on the mirror surface, her usual smiling face now devoid of all emotion. Luke didn't know what she saw, the mirror showed nothing unusual. But his spiritual sense, far exceeding an ordinary person's, told him Kazekage was watching a scene from another world, and the rushing sound of water beside his ears was definitely not an illusion. Phew. Not long after, perhaps only 10 seconds, Kazekage stopped clapping. She skillfully took out a clean bandage, tore off a piece, and wrapped it around her hand. Nothing wrong. She's not some evil spirit reincarnation, just a simple girl. Kazekage said, sounding slightly relieved, returning to her usual state. Then her yin-yang eyes. Luke glanced at Miko, who had just stabbed an evil spirit to death with the dagger and was now bouncing on her toes, unable to suppress her joy. Maybe it's a bloodline passed down from ancestors, awakened by some unknown reason. Kazekage guessed. Anyway, that's the only speculation for now. Luke nodded silently. Perhaps this was the best answer. I'll keep an eye on her. Kazekage said, turning to leave. Right, about that building incident from before, let me continue investigating. I have no leads on either the cat or the mannequins. Doesn't matter. Luke waved his hand dismissively. There were plenty of unclear things in the world, this one didn't make much difference. Chapter 32, Straight Ball. Monday, the second most hated day for students. The most hated was Wednesday. That was a trash day stuck in the middle of nowhere. Already tired from 2 days, yet still having to attend 3 more days of school, truly depressing. Forget it, enough said. Sobya High, teacher's office. Luke subtly scanned the desk, searching for his target. This little rascal. Yatsuya stared intently into his eyes, cursing inwardly, pulling her well-developed chest back slightly. But you're still too naive. Yatsuya sneered inwardly, crossing her arms over her chest, firmly hiding the cigarettes in her outer jacket pocket. Let's see what you do now. This adult is too despicable. Luke also noticed the bulge on Yatsuya's chest, speechlessly averted his gaze, thinking with utter disgust, do you really think I'd definitely steal those cigarettes? Not even a shred of trust between teacher and student. How disheartening. Feeling distrusted, Luke said irritably, is there something you need, Hyatsuka-sensei? About the matter. Speaking of official business, Yatsuya rubbed her head troubledly. Calling you here at this time is definitely about your homework. Can't you be a little more serious? Write me a normal assignment? Luke frowned. Hyatsuka-sensei, you can't just say things like that. How am I not serious? Although, like ordinary people, I've inevitably done some small bad deeds, the merits I've gained from doing good are enough for me to go to heaven after death. If you slander a good person like this, be careful you won't get marred, be careful you'll go to hell. Sigh. Yatsuya remained deeply troubled, helplessly poking his forehead with her finger. Can you stop changing the subject? I'm talking about your homework, don't write it like a novel for me, okay? A perfectly good Japanese literature assignment turned into a serialized novel slot by you. Didn't you say you could appropriately loosen up for me? Luke pointed at Yatsuya, looking at her questioningly. You wouldn't go back on your word, would you? Sensei. This was the promise Yatsuya made when she asked him to join the service club. I can give you some leeway, that doesn't mean you can be so unscrupulous. Yatsuya raised her voice slightly, speaking angrily. Insincere, cold, and heartless woman, how many times? Luke muttered. Yatsuya stopped him with a dark line on her forehead. Don't learn that stuff from Yuki no Shida. Stop using sentences from who knows what book to mock people. Doesn't Sensei also frequently use outdated manga plots from over 10 years ago to entertain herself? Under Yatsuya's increasingly dangerous gaze, his voice grew smaller and smaller. Sigh. What sins have I committed? Yatsuya looked up at the ceiling, lamenting silently in her heart, seemingly regretting her choice to become a teacher back then. Pulling herself together, Yatsuya asked, right, how are things going between you and Yuki no Shita in the service club? What about my homework? Luke quickly asked. Rejected. Yatsuya made a big X with her arms across her chest. Hey. Luke sneered. Just rewrite it properly. Yatsuya picked up her pen, preparing to write comments. Things with Yuki no Shita definitely aren't good, but I think I understand her somewhat now. Hearing his words, Yatsuya stopped her movements, looking up at him puzzled. What do you mean? Luke leaned nonchalantly against the desk, lightly explaining the analysis he'd gathered from joining the service club these past few days. Her heart rejects loneliness, longs for friends, yet walls off her inner self due to various experiences. Has no experience making friends, and even uses the walls she built to obstruct those who approach. Though I feel bad saying it, honestly, it's expected that she has no friends. Yatsuya calmed down and asked, any ideas? A straight ball would be better. Yatsuya didn't understand. A straight ball, a bare-naked straight ball. Luke said confidently. Although he hadn't experienced much on his own life path, he had seen many benign spirits transformed from humans. His experiences interacting with these benign spirits gave him a lot of life experience. Don't worry about any obstacles, just charge straight through. Whether catering to her interests or simply being interested, just treat her as a friend unilaterally and use time to break down her defenses. After all, you said Yuki no Shita is a gentle person. Gentle people can't refuse a straight ball. I didn't expect you'd already have a plan. Hiratsuka Shizuka looked at the boy, surprised. She had previously thought he would be the first one between the two to be seen through and reformed. Although he had the ability to live peacefully within a group, having lost that inclination due to long-term detachment from communal life, he basically had no friends and no motivation to make friends. But compared to Yukino Shita Yukino, who was soft inside yet had built strong walls around herself, he was still more likely to return to a normal life. After all, Yukino Shita Yukino's almost rebellious attitude of adhering to truth and self not only hindered herself but also hindered those who wanted to get close to her. However, Hiratsuka Shizuka hadn't expected him to be the first to launch an attack. A straight ball, maybe it really is effective. At least it's worth a try. So, my homework. Luke tapped his finger on the desk, the meaning obvious. Your homework. Hiratsuka Shizuka blinked, picked up her pen, and promptly wrote comments on it. Of course, it's perfect. I've never seen such writing. The path of a literary master lies beneath your pen. Notification, occupation mission, student, study hard, improve daily, the duty of every student. Complete homework assignment, 50 out of 50, completed. You have received a reward, 5 Thunder Command Token. 5 Thunder Command Token, striking the token can summon wind and rain, command thunder and lightning. Notification, you have received a new mission, occupation mission, student, the body is the capital for learning. Increase Constitution by 5 points. Constitution target, 9 out of 14. That's good. Luke nodded with satisfaction, very happy about completing the homework and the mission. 5 Thunder Command Token, quite fitting for an exorcist. And Hiratsuka Shizuka, having insincerely passed an unqualified assignment, leaned back in her chair, feeling dead inside. She forced herself to ask, then do you know Yuki no Shita's hobbies? If you want to win the competition this way, do you need some intel from me? Sensei should just stay out of this, okay? I still want to win the competition fairly. Luke leaned closer to Hiratsuka Shizuka, took off his glasses, and locked eyes with her. Besides, Sensei should also consider herself. Sensei is pretty, kind to others, has a great figure. Under his words, Hiratsuka Shizuka blushed inexplicably, but her dignity as a teacher didn't let her back down. She bravely met his gaze. Do you want to lecture me like an elder too? Yes, it's precisely because Sensei smokes and is violent. Luke's tone suddenly shifted as he looked at Hiratsuka Shizuka. What? Hiratsuka Shizuka paused. That Sensei can't get married. You bastard? Hiratsuka Shizuka instantly exploded, her arm locking around his neck in a flash. Guillotine. Being choked, Luke frantically tapped his teacher's arm. Showing good fighting spirit, Hiratsuka Shizuka released her hold on him according to the rules. Smoothing the stray hair beside her flushed face. That's a lesson for having a loose tongue? Luke twisted his neck. The cracking sound made him quickly say, Sensei, I might have contracted a disease that prevents me from attending class. Are you the long-nosed sniper of the Straw Hat Pirates? Get back to class obediently. Hiratsuka Shizuka slapped the desk repeatedly. Yes. Watching Luke quickly leave, Hiratsuka Shizuka reached into her outer jacket pocket. A hopeless sigh escaped her. Those cigarettes were expensive. Chapter 33, Tatsukaska and Hikagaya Hikoman. Luke subsequently tossed the cigarettes into the trash can. The winner of today's cigarette snatching war was him. He hurried towards the tennis courts. This period was PE and it was tennis class. Generally, PE class would have 2 options, and the students in the grades had to be evenly distributed between them. This month's options were tennis and soccer. But compared to soccer, which emphasized teamwork more, tennis was better suited for him. He could easily find an excuse to slack off, and could also figure out ways to practice alone without worrying about teammates. Everyone had already paired up for tennis in 2s and 3s. By the time Luke arrived, there was no need to find excuses like not feeling well for the PE teacher, Atsugi-sensei. Finding an empty spot, Luke watched the guy next to him constantly chasing after the bouncing tennis ball. Oh, it was the guy who sat in front of him, Hikagaya Hikoman, right? Although he didn't remember the names of most classmates, he did pay a little more attention to those sitting closer to him. Alone? Luke looked at Hikagaya. This guy was a loner too. Hikagaya looked at Luke, who had struck up a conversation, hit the tennis ball back, and said softly, "It's more comfortable alone." True. Luke didn't forget to warm up before exercising, rotating and stretching his body. Hikagaya's soft, weak voice sounded from the side. Luke and Hikagaya simultaneously shifted their gazes over. It looked like a delicate girl, holding a tennis racket tightly with both hands, walking over. Was this the girl who woke me up for PE class before? Luke vaguely recalled. However, logically speaking, PE classes were usually separated by gender. This person didn't seem like the willful, do-as-I-please type like Miro Yumiko either. Aren't PE classes separated by gender? Luke asked bluntly. Actually I'm a boy. Do I really look that weak? Luke looked at his shy appearance. Indeed, he didn't look like a boy. Sorry, due to some irresistible factors, I know very little about my classmates. Having finished warming up, Luke bounced lightly in place a couple of times. The after effects from using the talisman before had mostly disappeared. After all, it wasn't his first time using it, he had developed some resistance. Plus, with the water Kazekage gave him, his recovery was quite fast this time. I'm Tatsukaska from your class. Tatsukaska said softly. Luke nodded and picked up his racket. Kazekage, shall we play together? Tatsukaska asked softly. Kazekage replied, his face slightly red, avoiding Tatsukaska's gaze. Luke looked at him suspiciously. Although Tatsuka-san looked rather feminine, it shouldn't be to this extent, right? He felt like he was witnessing someone fall head over heels in love. The two found an empty tennis court and started playing doubles. Luke opened his panel. His current attributes had returned to normal levels: Strength 13, Agility 13, Constitution 9, Spirit 16. And these attributes didn't include item bonuses. This level was already quite high. It was time to shore up the weak link, Constitution. Luke picked up a tennis ball and hit it against the wall, starting to rally. He continuously hit the ball against the wall, skillfully chasing the rebound and hitting it back. But this activity was somewhat too simple for him with his current attributes. Let's add a few more balls. With his powerful strength and agility, plus the terrifying spirit enhanced by items, several tennis balls continuously bounced back from the wall. Luke hit them back with incredible speed. At the same time, he still had the spare mental capacity to ponder problems. He considered Yukino Shita Yukino's issue. The general method he told Hiratsuka Shizuka was one thing, how to actually do it was another. Although in the service club now, Yukino Shita Yukino had gradually gotten used to his presence, she had only allowed another outsider to inhabit her territory. They weren't exactly close. How to close the distance and make her adapt to outsiders joining required a method. Would catering to her interests be more suitable? Luke accelerated, hitting the tennis ball back. With the 19 points of spirit boosted by the cat pendant, he could easily discern the ball's trajectory. But he didn't know her interests. After all, that rich, beautiful, black-haired, straight-laced girl was completely her own person, elegantly independent from the school world. Like a cat. Luke mused. Speaking of which, loners like her should probably like animals, right? The lonelier a person is, the more they are healed by cute things. So, was Yukino Shita Yukino the common cat person or dog person? If only someone could communicate with her. Luke analyzed the trajectory of the bouncing tennis ball, lightly hitting it back. Probably a cat person, right? After all, according to previous discussions, a particularly bad dog often stole her indoor shoes. Hey. Luke amusingly switched the racket to his left hand. Doesn't matter if she's a cat or dog person. What I can offer is this Master Meow hanging on my chest. No great loss in trying. Just don't know if rashly summoning Mimi will make the little one unhappy. Capable beings tend to be somewhat proud, let alone cats. Luke stopped his movements, letting the tennis balls whiz past him. Thwack. Can't take it anymore, too hot. Should I pray for rain? Luke took out the 5 Thunder Command token, fiddling with it. However, looking at the students playing enthusiastically on the courts, he gave up the idea. So hot. Tatsukaska and Hikage, having finished a rally nearby, also came over to rest in a quiet spot. Tatsukaska sat in the shade, blushing, gently fanning his face with his hand contentedly. Hikage also blushed watching him. Luke curiously asked Tatsuka-san, Tatsuka-san should be very popular with girls, right? With this image. Not that popular. Tatsuka lowered his fanning hand, clasping his hands between his legs and rubbing them continuously, replying softly with a crimson face. So you are very popular. Luke guessed. Tatsuka didn't deny it again. But, I still prefer playing with boys. Right, it's probably better for boys to act more like boys. Why don't you try doing this like me? It'll make you more masculine. Luke said to Tatsuka, dangling his legs. Tatsuka looked curiously at his posture, uncrossed his tightly closed legs, and casually swung his right leg out. But still overwhelmingly cute. Hikage averted his gaze from this strange sight. Turned into a gyro instead. Luke stated the truth. Ah. Tatsuka quickly reverted to his usual soft and weak appearance, shyly rubbing his hands. Right, do you guys know where I can buy cat food or treats around here? Luke stopped teasing Tatsuka and asked the two instead. Why do you ask? Ecchi asked curiously. Because Tatsuka-san seems like a cat. Ecchi looked at Tatsuka and nodded in agreement. Tatsuka continued rubbing his clothes. Really? Chapter 34, Cupid's Connections. Following Ecchi and Tatsuka's directions, he successfully found a pet store and bought cat treat sticks and canned food. As for how he got out, let's just say paths are fixed, but people are flexible. When there's a need, there's a way. Mere walls were like flat ground under his 16 points of agility. Farewell, Gage. Although the school was already large, compared to the outside world, it still felt somewhat cramped. And because the people living inside were all hot-blooded teenagers, constantly stirring up a fervent atmosphere, it made someone like him, who hated heat the most, feel like dying of heat even in the classroom at this time. Luke wouldn't skip school. No matter how much he didn't want to go back, he had no choice. However, managing to grab a bowl of ramen on the way instead of gnawing on bread inside the school was doable. Luke walked into a ramen shop. Damn it. Luke instantly turned his head. Saw the unmarriageable older woman he shouldn't have seen. Hey, where are you going? Hayatsuka Shizuka gently reminded him. Going back to school. Luke muttered, but could only helplessly turn back. Yo, what a coincidence, Hayatsuka-sensei. Right, just saw each other in the office this morning. Hayatsuka Shizuka patted the seat next to her, scolding him. The school has repeatedly stated students are not allowed to leave school premise during lunch. How dare you be so bold? Something Hayatsuka-sensei would do. Isn't sensei doing the same? Luke replied casually, sitting down next to Hayatsuka Shizuka. Besides, no matter how delicious bread is, no matter how many varieties there are, no matter how hot the weather is, I still want to eat a hot meal at noon, not cold bread. That fits your description quite well. Hayatsuka Shizuka casually glanced at his shopping bag, not pressing further. So how do you usually manage? Let's not talk about that first. Any recommendations for ramen? Luke looked at the messy Japanese labels plastered around. How about tonkatsu ramen? Hayatsuka Shizuka suddenly got excited, eyes gleaming as she recommended her favorite ramen flavor to him. The broth for tonkatsu ramen is absolutely crucial. This broth needs to be boiled from pork bones, then add ingredients like kelp and dried scallops, cooked through layers of preparation. Only then can it brew this rich flavor and intense aroma. Thick broth, chewy noodles, and rich toppings, every bite is exceptionally delicious. So for noodle firmness, I recommend al dente. Why did she get so worked up? Luke glanced at Hayatsuka Shizuka and said to the shopkeeper, hello, one tonkatsu ramen, firm noodles are fine. Why are you so lukewarm towards your teacher's guidance? Hayatsuka Shizuka poked him. Because I trust sensei's choice. Luke dealt with a troublesome teacher. That's more like it. Hayatsuka Shizuka was relatively satisfied with this answer. Continuing our topic. How do you usually manage lunch? Instant soup plus hot water, paired with bread I like. Luke said simply. Or instant noodles. Instant soup. You can do that. Seeing Hayatsuka Shizuka's slightly agape mouth, speaking strangely, Luke recalled something, then guessed uncertainly, Kodaku no gourmet? Kodaku no gourmet, the solitary gourmet, as the name suggests, tells the story of a man named Goro enjoying food. He often watched it while eating, it was a great meal companion. Hayatsuka Shizuka was astonished, poking him with her finger. Oh? You've actually watched it? I thought you were the type of secluded hermit living isolated from the world, abstaining from pleasure. Hey! Luke snorted dismissively. He lacked time, not that he was an ascetic monk. He still partook in necessary entertainment. Less equals none. Hello, your ramen. Hayatsuka Shizuka, having arrived earlier, received her order. So Hayatsuka Shizuka happily put on a disposable paper bib, checked the placement of pepper, white sesame seeds, pickled mustard greens, red ginger, etc. So proficient. Luke curiously watched her. His ramen needed more time. Hayatsuka Shizuka smiled at him. Want some first, to warm your stomach? Luke impolitely nodded towards the gentle Hayatsuka Shizuka. A little. Hayatsuka Shizuka asked the shopkeeper for a bowl, shared some noodles and broth with him, then started eating gently, silently burying her head in a bowl, heartily enjoying the delicious soup. She eats ramen quite robustly. Phew. Revived. Hayatsuka Shizuka let out a long breath, then stared thoughtfully at the noodles in her bowl. Luke frowned, looking at her suspiciously. Could she have attained enlightenment? Ramen enlightenment. Hayatsuka Shizuka restlessly pounded the table. The soup in the bowl rippled. She then said angrily, having to deal with all sorts of brats every day is so annoying. And that damned director and principal. Always giving vague orders. Luke took a light sip of the shared broth, carefully considering it. No smell of alcohol. So, he looked speechlessly at Hayatsuka Shizuka. She can even get drunk just from eating ramen. Hayatsuka Shizuka continued rambling, if things go well, it's his credit. If things go wrong, it's didn't I tell you to ask me if you don't understand? If you ask, they say you don't even understand this little thing, can't you figure it out yourself? Thank you. His ramen had arrived too. Luke started eating. Hey! Are you listening to me? Hayatsuka Shizuka called out to him. Ho! Luke gently blew on the lifted ramen noodles to cool them, simultaneously admonishing Hayatsuka-sensei. Sensei, please don't show such weakness to a student. It's very unbecoming. Why have you become like Yuki no Shida? Hayatsuka Shizuka looked at him speechlessly. Mainly because I don't really relate to what sensei is saying. Luke said slowly. He was quite satisfied with his exorcist profession. Except for major incidents, he could even skip work and rest. No superiors, no ingrained workplace bullying. Most importantly, clients would never nitpick his work. Really? Hayatsuka Shizuka smiled, slowly parting her moist lips. Hayatsuka Shizuka incantation, I have something to tell you this weekend, please come to school. Luke felt a sense of dread, stopped his chopsticks, and silently looked at Hayatsuka Shizuka. Feel the terror. School is already tiring enough. Hayatsuka Shizuka continued venting, didn't expect that after becoming a teacher, I'd still be exploited on weekends. That's how I spent last weekend. It's because of this that I can't get married, woo. Luke responded with silence. Your inability to get married might not be because of this. Then Hayatsuka Shizuka patted his shoulder and said solemnly, so sensei has summarized a life lesson. Which is labor is shit. Still speechless, Luke looked at the righteous-sounding Hayatsuka Shizuka, momentarily losing his appetite. Gently putting down his chopsticks, Luke patted the indignant Hayatsuka Shizuka with pity. Sensei. Next time there's a national exorcist gathering, I'll find some connections to local deities for you. If that doesn't work, I'll contact my colleagues in the West, see if I can find Cupid's connections. So. Please do your best. Chapter 35, Yukino Meowing. Having bought enough cat food and treats, Luke summoned the calico cat once during the lunch break before it ended. Just as the item description said, as long as he gave it an expensive reward, it wouldn't get angry about the lack of ghosts. So, standing at the entrance of the service club room, he took off the cat pendant from his neck and began the summoning. He activated the active skill of the item, Summon Mimi, very simply. Like magic, after a flash of light resembling an illusion, the light pendant in his hand slowly grew heavier. With a meow, the pendant in his palm vanished, replaced by a calico cat squatting on it. Turning a cat out of thin air. He felt like he could probably make a living as a magician with his skill. The calico cat, Luke affectionately called this feline capable of exorcising evil spirits and punishing wicked people, Mimi. Mimi curiously looked around, tilting her little head slightly, her pupils flickering with a puzzled light. Her fluffy ears perked up, alertly scanning the surroundings as if searching for something. Her small nose twitched constantly, lightly sniffing the air, seemingly trying to find clues. But after finding no evil spirits, she turned her round little head back towards him, her bright eyes holding a trace of childishness, black pupils shining with confusion. Meow? Her cute appearance was completely different from the fierce Master Meow look from before. Just like I told you at noon, I need your help. I've already prepared the reward, cat treat sticks and dried fish. Luke supported her with one hand, took out a cat treat stick with the other, and gently bit it open. Meow. Mimi smelled the familiar scent. Seeing the cat treat stick dangling from Luke's mouth, her sharp claws retracted into her soft pads, and she pawed incessantly at his shirt. Hold on. Luke mumbled indistinctly, the treat stick still in his mouth. Putting the small can of cat food into his pocket, Luke freed his hand, held the treat stick, and gently placed it in front of Mimi's face. Mimi stuck out her pink tongue and gently licked the treat stick. Luke leaned against the service club door, observing the cat. Her small mouth opened slightly, her pink tongue occasionally darting out. Her white fur was adorned with black and orange patches, like a natural work of art. Although he liked both cats and dogs, he had to admit, this cat was among the most beautiful he had ever seen. As his thoughts wandered, the familiar sound of footsteps approached. Turning his head, sure enough, it was Yukino Shita Yukino. Yukino Shita Yukino had just started speaking when she saw the cute cat standing on his palm, paws resting on his chest. Oh, good afternoon, Yukino Shita. Luke looked up and said softly, stopping his hand from stroking the cat's fur. "Good afternoon." Yukino Shita Yukino replied stiffly, her eyes fixed on the cute cat sticking out its little tongue. Luke withdrew the treat stick. Mimi licked around her mouth, wanting more, her chubby paws gently kneading his chest. Yukino Shita Yukino suppressed her longing and took out her key to unlock the clubroom door. "Can I bring it inside?" Luke's hand moved up and down, the cat sat demurely on it, still as a mountain. Yukino Shita Yukino hesitated for a moment, then agreed softly. Luke brought the cat into the room. Then, as usual, Yukino Shita Yukino took out the book she wanted to read and began flipping through it gently. But compared to her usual intense focus, Yukino Shita Yukino seemed somewhat absent-minded now. Luke considered letting Mimi approach Yukino Shita Yukino. He asked, "Does Yukino Shita like cats? How did you reach that conclusion?" After a moment's hesitation, Yukino Shita Yukino spoke, still holding her book. "Regardless, practice makes perfect? Looks like Yukino Shita is interested in cats too. Go." Luke commanded Mimi. Mimi, surprisingly intelligent, having made a deal with him during lunch break, obediently followed his command with great contract spirit. "Dried fish awaits." Mimi leaped lightly across the floor like an elf, reaching Yukino Shita Yukino's desk in the blink of an eye, gazing at Yukino Shita Yukino with her big, watery eyes. Yukino Shita Yukino didn't react for a moment, unsure what was happening. Her body tensed, gripping the sides of her book tightly, helplessly turning her pleading gaze towards him. This, cat." Luke rested his cheek on one hand, watching the peculiar combination, and extended his free hand. "Don't be polite, feel free to pet her. She doesn't bite, and doesn't shed either. Right, her name is Mimi." Hearing this, Yukino Shita Yukino hesitated for a moment, but ultimately couldn't resist the stirring in her heart. She gently closed the book in her hands. After thinking for a moment, Yukino Shita Yukino took out a tissue from her bag and meticulously wiped her hands and fingers, her movements elegant and precise. "Isn't this a bit too reverent?" Luke hadn't expected her to act like this. Mimi was already rolling around in front of Yukino Shita Yukino, wondering why this woman wasn't petting her yet. Yukino Shita Yukino gently extended a finger, lightly touching the round little head, her cautious manner identical to the cat's. Mimi contentedly enjoyed Yukino Shita Yukino's gentle stroking. The technique and speed were perfect, much more comfortable than that certain someone's hand. And so, Yukino Shita Yukino grew bolder. Her remaining fingers spread out, starting to stroke down from the small head. Meow. Mimi let out a cute sound. Meow. It was an unaccustomed cat sound. Unexpectedly, Luke suspiciously confirmed the source of the sound. "Haha. Didn't expect you to be like this, Yukino Shita." Luke let out a surprised laugh, unexpected that Yukino Shita Yukino would actually mimic the cat like this. Yukino Shita Yukino shifted her gaze towards him, her eyes filled with an icy glare that screamed, "Say one more word and I'll kill you." So, he amusingly stopped talking. Yukino Shita Yukino looked at the cat, Luke looked at Yukino Shita Yukino. Silence filled the service club room, but he confirmed it, Yukino Shita Yukino was a cat person through and through. But their attributes match unexpectedly well. Luke thought deeply, looking at the elegant and tranquil combination of Yukino Shita Yukino and Mimi. Time slowly passed. Luke glanced at the clock, its time limit was approaching. He called out, "Mimi, come back." Mimi, contentedly licking a treat stick, jolted awake, leaped down from the desk, and returned to Luke. "Mimi." Yukino Shita Yukino called softly, the cat treat stick she held frozen in midair. "I need to send her back now. I'll let her play with you again next time," Luke said, holding Mimi. This skill also had a time limit, Mimi couldn't exist in this world indefinitely. Yukino Shita Yukino nodded, inevitably disappointed. Luke opened the clubroom door and handed the promised dried fish to Mimi. Mimi transformed back into the pendant. After wandering aimlessly around the building for a bit, Luke returned to the service club. Chapter 36, Yukino Shita Grail. Returning to the service club, Yukino Shita Yukino inside the room had already reverted to her usual solitary and cold aura, sitting alone by the window, silently savoring the words in her book. Luke didn't know if the cat trick would help resolve Hirotsuka Shizuka's request. "Do you have a request?" Yukino Shita Yukino asked suddenly. "What?" Luke replied strangely. "Based on my understanding of you, you wouldn't just bring me the cat over, right? Is there something you need my help with?" Luke lowered his head, thought for a moment, then looked up at Yukino Shita Yukino's serious gaze and said without concealment, "Hirotsuka-sensei's request." No need for further explanation. The intelligent Yukino Shita Yukino instantly understood the meaning, her calm eyes gradually closing. Meddlesome adult. She continued speaking to Luke, "You don't need to waste your energy on her request. Even if you lose the competition, I won't ask you to do anything unreasonable." For some reason, Luke could feel that the tone of this sentence was completely different from her previous words. He understood that when dealing with this kind of problem child, there could be no concealment. So he added to his earlier explanation, "Besides, I think Yukino Shita-san is amazing, so I want to help you." "Sorry, I don't need your help." Yukino Yukino replied, just like before. Yes, yes, yes." Luke placated her. But Yukino Yukino added, "I can live just fine on my own." The club room returned to silence again. Club activities once more became a reading session to pass the time. Luke held his book, thinking, he couldn't quite grasp if Yukino Yukino had lowered her defenses. Even by a fraction. Suddenly, this thought was abruptly interrupted by a knock from a visitor. "Please come in." Yukino Yukino stopped her meaningless page flipping, meticulously placed the bookmark between the pages, looked up, and called out towards the door in a cool voice. "Sorry, to bother you." The door opened a crack. Shoulder-length chestnut brown hair poked in first. This girl nervously squeezed through the gap in the door. Her gaze darted around constantly, like a puppy entering a new world, continuously letting out nervous whimpering sounds. Luke sized her up. Chestnut brown hair tied into buns. Besides the standard uniform top, she wore a heart-shaped pendant. Her lower half consisted of a short skirt modified against school rules. Undoubtedly the type of girl who dressed brightly and enjoyed high school life to the fullest. His classmate. Luke, having paid more attention to his classmates recently, remembered her. "Yuagahama," Luke said uncertainly. "Ah. Why is there someone else here?" Yuagahama Yua cried out in panic. "I've been here the whole time," Luke said helplessly, taking off his glasses. "Oh, it's the shut-in boy number 2. Yuagahama Yua confirmed. "What kind of nickname is that? Is number 1 Hokage Mira's little follower?" Luke asked, grasping the key point. "Yes." Yuagahama Yua confirmed, nodding firmly. "You guys are really good at giving people nicknames. Didn't you give me a nickname too?" Yuagahama Yua said, slightly indignant. Seeing the two had completely strayed from the initial purpose, Yukino Yukino helplessly interrupted their conversation. "You are Yuagahama Yua, correct? Why, you know me?" Being called by name by Yukino Yukino, Yuagahama Yua immediately regained her spirits, seeming very happy. "I've memorized most students' names." Yuagahama Yua was visibly shaken. "Amazing. I can't even remember all the names in the textbook." "That's because you're an idiot," Luke said speechlessly. "After all, what normal person lets their dog run off while walking it?" "You two know each other." Yukino Yukino was quite surprised. "We crossed paths once, but the impression wasn't deep." Luke nodded thoughtfully. It was probably around the start of the school year. That was the first time he used the talisman near his heart. He was waiting by the roadside for Kazekage to pick him up. He saw a dog break free from its leash, about to be hit by an oncoming car. Having some talisman power left, he intervened and saved the puppy. Luke nodded, saying, "Mainly I remember she had a dachshund with her back then, fluffy and very cute." "Why do you remember Sable more than me?" Yuagahama Yua quickly interrupted. "Sable was the name of her pet dachshund." "That's because he..." Yukino Yukino sneered, opening her mouth coolly. Luke's internal alarm instantly blared. He quickly interrupted, "Yukino Shita-san, for the sake of the cat, please hold your tongue." Yukino Yukino struggled to retract the rest of her words. Cough. It actually worked. Luke looked at Yukino Yukino in surprise. How much does she love cats? But Yukino Yukino, showing this ordinary human attribute, seemed much more approachable than usual. Anyway. Luke looked up at Yuagahama Yua. "Regarding that dog incident, I called you an idiot. Any problem with that?" "Sorry, I didn't expect you'd still remember me." Yuagahama Yua suddenly became shy, fiddling with her clothes and muttering softly, "After you were hit by the car, you were immediately picked up by a woman. I wanted to visit you but didn't know how to find you, and then never got the chance. Sorry, I never thanked you properly." Luke, skilled at grasping key points, quickly stopped her. "I wasn't hit by the car. I flew out on my own. If he could get hit by a car even after using the talisman, he might as well retire. Isn't that the same thing?" Yuagahama Yua muttered, then looked at him, somewhat surprised. "Didn't expect you could chat so freely after school. You're so withdrawn in class, always slumped on your desk." "I was sleeping, not being withdrawn. I have work at night, need to recharge during the day." "Work at night?" Strangely, Yuagahama Yua's not so bright little head started pondering. "Hey." Luke's internal alarm blared again. With this idiot's limited worldview, she definitely thought of some unsavory job. Yukino Shita Yukino rubbed her temples, headache returning, and interrupted again. Yuagahama-san, may I ask your purpose for coming here? The strange chat content had completely thrown the initial purpose out into space. Yukino Shita Yukino quickly pulled it back. Oh right. I didn't come here to chat. Yuagahama suddenly realized. Idiot, Luke and Yukino Shita Yukino thought simultaneously. And so, Yuagahama awkwardly stated her purpose. I heard from Hirotsuka-sensei that this place can help classmates achieve their wishes. Luke's head filled with confusion. That damned adult, what does she think we are, wish-granting machines? Yuagahama-san, we're neither Dragon Balls nor Doraemon. Fulfilling wishes might be a bit difficult. Are you sure Hirotsuka-sensei said that? Luke directly asked Yuagahama. However, Luke turned his head towards Yukino Shita Yukino. What does Yukino Shita Grail think? Yukino Shita Yukino ignored him and directly answered Yuagahama-Yu's question, different from what Hirotsuka-sensei said. The service club only provides help. Whether the wish can be fulfilled depends on your own efforts. Chapter 37, The Service Club's First Request. Hearing the reply, which sounded like a rejection, Yuagahama asked in surprise, is there a difference? The difference is who takes the lead. Hearing Yukino Shita Yukino's words, Luke instantly understood and slowly explained to her. Helping you fulfill your wish means you don't need to do anything extra, just sit on the sofa and wait for the worker bee to complete your desired wish. But our duty is to help you become the kind of person who can fulfill their own wishes. Service is about providing the method, not directly giving the result. It's the difference between giving a man a fish and teaching a man to fish. Oh. Sounds amazing. So impressive. Yuagahama said, her expression showing sudden realization. Seeing her like this, she'll probably get tricked a lot in the future. So different from the sharp-tongued, smart flat chest next to her, in every way. But, Yukino Shita, you gotta work hard too. So, Yukino Shita Yukino nodded coolly, seemingly agreeing with his statement. We don't guarantee we can fulfill your wish, but we will help you as much as we can. Ah. Okay. Yuagahama nodded in confirmation, slowly revealing her initial purpose. I want to. Cookies, make cookies. Her words were soft and broken, and she kept glancing at him, making it impossible to clearly understand her goal. Although Yukino Shita Yukino hadn't experienced this before, seeing Yuagahama glances, she roughly understood the meaning and turned her face towards the person in the way. Cookies? Luke, doing his Japanese listening comprehension, heard the keyword and looked at Yuagahama puzzled. Are you trying to make cookies? Yuagahama started fiddling with her clothes again, lowering her head with blush. Luke thought for a moment. This girl's stammering manner, making cookies. Probably not for herself, so it must be a gift. Generally, it would be for friends, occasionally for parents. But seeing her fidgeting like she'd just been confessed to, Luke guessed, for someone you like? Ah. You said it out loud. Yuagahama face instantly flushed crimson, and she quickly covered her red face. Looks like that was the answer. Luke's guess was accurate, but Yukino Shita Yukino said with a hint of helplessness, Luke-san, can't you read the atmosphere? Luke glanced at the embarrassed Yuagahama and understood what was going on. After all, whether between friends, family, or strangers, there were always some things that could only be discussed between people of the same gender. Telling someone of the opposite sex always felt strangely awkward. Although he didn't understand why expressing feelings like this needed to avoid the opposite sex, he wouldn't force the issue either. Alright, I'll go buy a drink. Luke stood up. You can get the follow-up details from her. Yukino Shita Yukino didn't hesitate to give him an order from behind. I want strawberry yogurt. Okay. Luke agreed. Unlike the usual time spent reading, this was the first proper club activity. He wasn't sure how long their conversation would take. Luke took out his phone, planning his client route after the club activity, and slowly walked off to buy drinks. As usual, he bought a Coke from the vending machine, along with the strawberry yogurt Yukino Shita Yukino requested. Thinking for a moment, not knowing Yuagahama taste, he duplicated Yukino Shita Yukino's strawberry yogurt for her. When he returned to the club room, looks like the two had finished talking and were both sitting in their chairs waiting for him. Here you go. Luke handed the drink to Yukino Shita Yukino. Thank you. Yukino Shita Yukino took the drink, inserted the straw, and started drinking. Yuagahama immediately noticed the extra strawberry yogurt in his hand. How did your talk go? Luke asked, handing the strawberry yogurt to Yuagahama. Yours. Going to the home economics room to make cookies. You're coming too. Yukino Shita Yukino said. This is for you. Yuagahama Yua quickly fumbled in her small wallet and pulled out a 100 yen coin. No need, it's on me. Luke said, drinking his coke, not intending to take her money. That won't do. Yuagahama Yua insisted he take it. Luke glanced at her. Aren't you the one asking for our help? Then don't worry about these things. If you really want to thank us, just make good cookies later. Honestly, his least favorite dessert was cookies. So dry. He rarely drank much water during the day, and eating cookies made his whole mouth feel parched, which was very uncomfortable. Thank you. Yuagahama Yua said softly, showing a gentle smile, her face slightly flushed. Luke remembered this smile and thought for a moment. Right, speaking of which, I wanted to ask, why make cookies by hand? He asked curiously after thinking. Is it strange? For me to make cookies by hand? Maybe I shouldn't. Yukino Shita-san. Hearing his question, Yuagahama Yua instantly became conflicted, lowering her head and starting to fiddle with her clothes again. Luke was speechless. This girl was way too indecisive. How could she change her mind just because someone asked a question? Aren't idiots supposed to be single-minded? At least that's how they're portrayed on TV. If you want to give up, I don't mind. But please note, don't pay too much attention to his words. Yukino Shita Yukino said. Oh, no need. After all, I'm really not suited for this kind of thing, and it's laughable. I asked Mira and the others before, they all said handmade heartfelt cookies aren't popular anymore. Yuagahama Yua said with her head down. It indeed doesn't seem like something a girl like you would do. Yukino Shita Yukino said, eyeing the brightly dressed Yuagahama Yua. Haha, right? It's strange, isn't it? Yuagahama Yua laughed awkwardly, her lowered head occasionally lifting her gaze to meet theirs. Ha! Luke sighed, breaking her defense. Yuagahama-san, there's nothing strange or not strange about this. You're simply running away. Lacking the courage to break the existing relationship, wanting the other person's response, yet afraid your actions will affect the relationship you already have. Seems like I've said something similar to someone before, Luke thought. You're talking about Hayato, right? Yuagahama Yua muttered, not admitting it. Oh, must have been Mira, I said it too. Luke suddenly realized, hearing her say that. Alright, that's enough, Yuagahama-san. Yukino Shita Yukino stood up and spoke coolly to Yuagahama Yua, just as he said, you're simply running away. Since you've set your goal, it's best not to think about retreating anymore. Besides, you're not fighting alone. Since we've accepted your request, we'll help you to the end. Luke also nodded. Although I can't cook, I've seen others work hard learning to cook. I can give you some advice. So, your choice? Yuagahama Yua lifted her head, thought for a moment, and said solemnly, thank you so much. Then. I'll definitely work hard. Chapter 38, Yuagahama's Cookies. And so, having accepted Yuagahama Yua's request, all the members of the service club, though only 2 of them, headed to the home economics classroom. The almighty Yukino Shita began her preparation procedures. Yukino Shita Yukino, with practiced ease, took out the necessary ingredients from the refrigerator, eggs, milk, etc. as well as various required kitchen utensils. Ooh, so skilled, so amazing. Yuagahama Yua looked at Yukino Shita Yukino with admiration. Luke also nodded in agreement. Everything Yukino Shita Yukino did seemed so orderly. The 2 kitchen novices could only applaud. There's nothing praiseworthy so far. Yukino Shita Yukino said matter-of-factly. After quickly preparing all the necessary tools, she picked up an apron and put it on neatly. Seeing this, Yuagahama Yua also hurriedly found a spare apron from the classroom, but she seemed truly unskilled, even putting on the apron looked awkward. You didn't tie the back properly. Luke pointed out, looking at Yuagahama Yua's apron which offered practically no protection, only supported by her shoulders. Yuagahama-san, you don't even know how to wear an apron? Yukino Shita Yukino also commented. Sorry. I do know how to wear an apron. Then put it on properly. If you handle even small things carelessly, the result will become careless just like the person next to you. Luke ignored her, taking a rare look around the home economics classroom. A spacious kitchen area, equipped with modern cooking appliances and tools. The tables and chairs in the classroom were arranged neatly, providing students with ample and comfortable workspace. He had to admit, this kind of class was much more interesting than learning boring knowledge in a regular classroom. Unfortunately, he couldn't participate. Because he himself was a kitchen disaster. Plus, not being familiar with classmates made teaming up troublesome. So, during these practical classes, he usually chose to skip. As a result, he was often called to the office by Hiratsuka Shizuka. After browsing idly, Luke returned to the two aspiring cooks, only to see Yukino-shita Yukino and Yuagahama Yua still stuck on the previous step putting on the apron. You still haven't put it on? You actually don't know how, do you? Sigh, come here, I'll help you put it on. Yukino-shita Yukino helplessly beckoned the clumsy Yuagahama Yua. Is that okay? Wouldn't it be inappropriate? Yuagahama Yua's gaze darted around, unable to settle anywhere, like a lost child. Hurry up. Yukino-shita Yukino's icy voice broke Yuagahama Yua's indecision. This voice sounded somewhat terrifying to Yuagahama Yua. She quickly apologized and scurried over. Yukino-shita Yukino stood behind Yuagahama Yua, skillfully untying the tangled knot and retying it tightly. Somehow, Yukino-shita feels like my older sister. Ah! Yuagahama Yua let out a cry as the tightened straps constricted her. Yukino-shita Yukino looked at the tied straps and sighed. My younger sister wouldn't be as clumsy as you. Yukino-shita has a younger sister? Luke asked curiously. No. Yukino-shita Yukino replied. And this has nothing to do with the request. Luke wanted to see if her family members had personalities as awful as hers. Does Yukino-shita-san make cookies for her family? Yuagahama Yua asked. Yuagahama-san, now is your cooking time. Please don't waste time. Yukino-shita Yukino glared at Luke with eyes that said, interrupt again and I'll kill you. This guy, paired with this idiot, always diverts the topic to strange places, more than once. Oh, sorry. Yuagahama Yua quickly apologized. They finally moved on to the next stage, starting the main task. Yuagahama Yua rolled up her sleeves and began her actions. Luke wasn't good at cooking and didn't know the specific process for making cookies, but even so, he could see from Yuagahama Yua's movements that she was far from simple. He himself just made things that tasted bad. But Yuagahama Yua's method couldn't be called making cookies, it was clearly preparing a sacrifice for an evil god. Although he hadn't seen the baked cookies yet, he already foresaw the result, feeling waves of cold dread from her actions. Indeed, Yukino-shita Yukino beside them had also turned pale, helplessly massaging her head. Next. Add sugar. Yuagahama Yua grunted, picking up the sugar bag. Luke sensed trouble. Then a mountain of sugar appeared. Luke didn't have time to warn her and could only shut his mouth helplessly, letting her proceed. Would adding some drinks make it sweeter and tastier? Yuagahama Yua pondered. And so, Yuagahama Yua, not only lacking cooking skills, also made the classic beginner's mistake, exercising unnecessary creativity. Soon, the cookies went into the oven. Luke vaguely seemed to see wisps of black smoke continuously rising. Alarms blared in his mind. The culinary disasters he, Mikasa, and Annie had created in the past were likely to reappear today. Learn from past mistakes. Reason told him it was best to find an excuse and leave quickly right now. But Yuagahama Yua had already opened the oven, completing her first cook. No, this wasn't cooking. This was the most mysterious ritual since modern times. These were three evil cultists summoning an evil god. To protect the earth, Luke spoke softly, Stop, Yuagahama-san. Ahead lies hell. And so, the unbelieving Yuagahama Yua stared dumbfounded at the mysterious dark objects emerging from the oven. Luke leaned closer to examine the objects. The smell produced by the high temperature was distant and ancient. Although they were freshly baked cookies, he felt a sense of terror. I cannot comprehend. Didn't you look at the tutorial? Why, following the step-by-step tutorial, could you still make so many mistakes? Yukino-shita Yukino looked at the objects that bore no resemblance to cookies, wanting to stay silent but unable to resist speaking out. Yuagahama Yua placed the objects onto a serving dish with a final shred of hope. Although the appearance isn't great, you have to taste it to know the flavor. Silence fell for a moment. Yukino-shita Yukino, serious about everything she did, agreed, that's true. Coincidentally, there's someone idle who can help try it. Hearing this, Luke turned his gaze towards Yukino-shita Yukino, his eyes showing some confusion, the meaning obvious, why are you doing this to me? Yukino-shita. Even the steadfast Yukino-shita Yukino couldn't help but turn her head aside, muttering to herself, you always have to eat it to know where she went wrong, right? Look at me, Yukino-shita. Yukino-shita Yukino didn't want to look at him. Speechless, Luke then turned his gaze back to Yuagahama Yua. Stop, Yuagahama-san. Someone could die. Yuagahama Yua cried out loudly, looking uneasy. Will they? Maybe. Luke murmured uncertainly. It's not poisonous, right? Yuagahama Yua looked at him anxiously. Her timid appearance, hands fidgeting restlessly. As the silent atmosphere among them gradually spread, her gaze dimmed. Seeing the pitiful Yuagahama Yua standing there twisting her apron, Luke tapped the table with his finger and said speechlessly, "Just one piece. I absolutely won't eat more." Chapter 39, Yuagahama looks straight at Yuki no Shida. Luke made up his mind. "Don't worry, the ingredients she used are all edible. There shouldn't be a problem." Yuki no Shida Yukino said beside him. Luke glanced at her. "Your tone doesn't sound very confident." Yuki no Shida Yukino mustered her courage and whispered beside his ear, "Don't worry, I'll eat it too." Luke sighed. He really didn't want to eat cookies, let alone this failed attempt by a beginner. But having accepted her request, his sense of responsibility and curiosity drove him to pick up the plate of black objects, turning it in his hand to examine the cookies. He gently picked one up. It was a bit hard, but still within the edible range. Luke popped it into his mouth, chewing slowly. Yuki no Shida Yukino did the same. Just as expected. Eating this cookie wouldn't kill him, but it was truly awful. Luke instantly stopped chewing, quickly chugged some Coke, and swallowed the crumbled cookie in his mouth in one go. Then he regretted it. Shouldn't have drunk the Coke. It couldn't suppress the bitterness at all. The taste buds, having sensed sweetness, became even more sensitive to the bitterness. The crust was already dry and bitter, and the inside was sweet to the point of bitterness. A cookie with absolutely no redeeming qualities. Luke and Yuki no Shida Yukino looked at each other. He saw that Yuki no Shida Yukino's eyes were actually a bit moist. For a moment, he felt happy and thought the cookie wasn't bitter. Okay, mental deception couldn't change physical sensation. So bitter. Luke fell silent, overwhelmed by the taste of the cookie. Yuagahama Yua, seeing the two standing silently beside the equipment, asked with a final shred of hope, "How does it taste?" Luke paused for a moment, looked seriously at Yuagahama Yua. "I saw the enemies I defeated in the past baring their fangs at me." Yuki no Shida Yukino walked off to the side. "What kind of metaphor is that? Is it that terrifying?" Yuagahama Yua, startled, quickly picked up a cookie herself. "I advise you not to," Luke suggested sincerely. "Because that is truly hell. If I were being tortured, eating this cookie might make me reflect on every single wrong thing I've done since childhood. In a word, ahead lies hell, Yuagahama." But as the creator, Yuagahama Yua persisted and put it in her mouth, taking a small bite. Then her face, just as Luke expected, instantly turned deathly pale. And so, Yuagahama Yua began to cry while nibbling on the cookie with her front teeth, bit by tiny bit. "Woo wah woo, why is it so bad, so bitter? Woo, it really is hell. Don't let the cookie touch your tongue. The taste buds on the tongue are too sensitive. Eating it is like taking strong medicine." Yuki no Shida Yukino picked up the freshly boiled kettle, poured the scalding water over the black tea, making tea for them. "It's best not to chew it. Just swallow it whole with the black tea." Adhering to the principle of not wasting food, the three reluctantly divided the damned cookies evenly and finished them all. Luke gently sipped Yuki no Shida Yukino's black tea. Never before today had he felt black tea could be so sweet and refreshing. Silence fell among the three. Yuki no Shida Yukino had to speak up. "Let's continue thinking of ways to solve this problem. How to enable Yuagahama to make delicious cookies." Luke remained silent. To improve cooking skills to the level of making delicious cookies probably required some time. Cooking skills tested talent and effort. Yuagahama Yua, inherently clumsy, could only reach a normal level through accumulated experience over time. And he really didn't want to eat those cookies again. Seeing the air grow silent again, Yuagahama Yua's shoulders slumped in discouragement. She sighed softly, "Sigh, maybe I'm really not suited for cooking. I really don't have the talent. Then there's only one path left." Yuki no Shida Yukino sighed along. For this kind of request, she didn't have a better solution either. "What path?" "Effort," Yuki no Shida Yukino said. No one was omnipotent. Talents were accumulated bit by bit through effort. For Yuagahama Yua, effort was already a very good solution. But, for the service club, effort was indeed the most helpless measure, because it only meant they were out of ideas, facing the problem with no other possibilities, only able to rely on the accumulation of time. Honestly, rather than this, giving up seemed easier. Expressing feelings with handmade cookies like these will fail. Luke felt something was wrong with that thought. Over there, Yuki no Shida Yukino continued, "Yuagahama-san, you just said you don't have talent in cooking, right?" "Oh, yes, yes." Yuki no Shida Yukino cautioned Yuagahama Yua, her tone as firm as ever, "Please discard that shameful thought. Success is not achieved overnight, effort is the most basic condition. Success is built up bit by bit. Failures give up when they encounter setbacks because they don't understand the principle of effort, which is why they cannot succeed." But Yuagahama Yua still forced a smile. Really? But nobody uses this method anymore. Besides, cooking really doesn't suit me. Luke watched her attempt to choose avoidance. They couldn't make decisions for others, but escaping, while shameful, was indeed useful. But Yukino Shita didn't think so. The cup in her hand hit the table with a crisp sound. A chilling temperature emanated from her. Can you stop spouting foolish arguments just to conform to others' views? Such behavior is awful. It irritates me just looking at it. The root of stupidity and failure clearly lies within oneself, yet you still seek answers from others' mouths. By adopting the image others project onto you, can the covered, unsightly truth just disappear? Her wording was severe. Yuagahama immediately started whimpering, inevitably lowering her head, hands gripping the corners of her clothes again. The adult-like Yukino Shita's words are still too harsh. But the two really have opposite attributes. Yuagahama has probably been in Miro Yumiko's clique for too long, lacking the determination to break the relationship and attack, just like Hayama who does nothing. Luke considered whether he should mediate. Yukino Shita is so cool. Unexpectedly, Yuagahama muttered softly instead. Huh? Luke, who was about to speak, was instantly taken aback. Yukino Shita not having heard clearly, frowned and asked, what? She said you're very cool. Luke blurted out. Yukino Shita turned back to look at Yuagahama disbelievingly. Yes, I think Yukino Shita's straightforward style, saying whatever is on her mind, is very cool. Yuagahama lifted her head, her gaze sincere and fervent. Even Yukino Shita under such a gaze and words, couldn't help but stiffen and take 2 steps back, forced back by the fervent attitude. What are you talking about? I was criticizing you just now? Harshly, impolitely. Yukino Shita looked suspiciously at Luke, for the first time feeling her memory might be scrambled. Luke nodded at her. Your criticism just now was indeed very harsh. It's not like that. What you said was indeed harsh, and I was scared too, but honestly. Yuagahama hesitated, then spoke. I always live my life watching the atmosphere around others, but Yukino Shita, even when criticizing, speaks to me in a tone of discussion. Yukino Shita felt awkward. Girl, something's not right with you. Luke looked at Yuagahama also feeling somewhat awkward. But Yuagahama continued to look straight at Yukino Shita Chapter 40, Entrusting Feelings. Yukino Shita seemed like a switch had been flipped. Under Yuagahama fervent gaze, she surprisingly didn't say anything more. Perhaps this was the first time she had encountered someone like Yuagahama. Generally, most normal people, when faced with harsh criticism, would blush and retort or fire back with sarcasm, not like Yuagahama who not only apologized but also expressed admiration for the critic. Sorry, I'll work hard. Yuagahama said sincerely, her gaze never leaving Yukino Shita Yukino Shita usually incredibly calm and confident, now couldn't help but avert her gaze, taking a light breath. She also seemed at a loss. Luke, having some understanding of Yukino Shita knew she might have crashed. She wanted to say something but couldn't find the right words for the situation. After all, Yukino Shita having no friends, wouldn't have experienced anything like this. This idiot has some surprising attributes, Luke thought, looking at Yuagahama. She might just be the ultimate weapon against Yukino Shita Not just Yuagahama perfect straight ball just now, but also Yuagahama unique ability to read the mood, able to tear through the surface of Yukino Shita icy words and sense Yukino Shita consideration for her. Yuagahama, Yukino Shita, I have a question. Luke took the initiative to break the magnetic field between the two. Yuagahama tilted her head, looking at him puzzled. Yukino Shita also shifted her gaze to him. Why are we focusing on having Yuagahama make delicious cookies? Isn't that somewhat unrealistic? He, worn down mentally by the hellish cookies, finally remembered why he felt awkward about this request. What's wrong with striving for perfection? Yukino Shita looked at him puzzled, adding a slight touch of sarcasm. The pursuit of perfection isn't because it can truly be achieved, but because pursuing perfection makes one better. You wouldn't not understand this principle, would you? Luke turned his head to look at her, issuing a Yuagahama-style threat. Yukino Shita-san, be careful or I will act like Yuagahama. Be careful I don't keep throwing straight balls at you like Hyuga. Yukino Shita awkwardly took 2 steps back, her face showing some discomfort. Please refrain from actions unfitting of your image. It's very unbecoming. That's right. It's the patent of cute people. Yuagahama seeing this, regained some composure, confidently puffing out her chest. Talking about her, not you, right? Idiot. I'm not an idiot, you're the idiot. Chatting now, the annoyed Yuagahama showed a normal person's reaction. Then why are you so receptive to Yukino Shita's criticism but avoid mine? Hyuga paused, blinking as she started thinking hard. Hey, this one's actually thinking about it. Seeing the smile creeping onto Luke's lips, Hyuga realized and quickly cried out, that's different. Yours is just pure mockery. The two continued to stare the conversation into outer space. So what are you trying to say? Yukino brought the topic back. Hyuga continued to glare puffily at Luke. Do we remember the purpose of making cookies? Luke asked back. Yukino thought quickly, vaguely grasping the main point, expressing feelings. Yes. Luke nodded. He felt they had strayed from the initial path from the beginning. For Hyuga, who wanted to give cookies to the person she liked, the initial approach was already flawed. What do you mean? There was still a cute idiot who didn't understand. The request you gave us, rather than teaching you to make delicious cookies, was more about helping you learn a way to express your feelings. Luke explained his concept. Cookies are just a vessel to carry feelings, like flowers or chocolates on Valentine's Day. Hyuga nodded her little head, seeming to half understand. So, what should I do? Seeing she was starting to get it, Luke pointed at Yukino, just like you did with Yukino. Please don't speak so vaguely. Yukino retreated again. Hyuga lacks the courage to break through. Yukino has no friends, no experience handling similar situations. But he was different. Simply put, throw a straight ball. Luke pointed at Hyuga. He was a regular customer constantly being hit with straight balls by two fair-skinned, beautiful, youthful maids. You just need to express your feelings to the person you like. So when it comes to throwing straight balls, he's quite capable. No. Hyuga quickly waved her hands shyly, creating after images. I don't dare. Don't dare. It's just an explanation, don't worry. As I said, cookies are just one method of indirect attack. You can easily substitute it with other methods. Yukino nodded in agreement. For example, confessing via text message without meeting face-to-face. Text message. Hyuga lifted her blushing face, glancing thoughtfully at Luke. Not formal enough. Hyuga shook in disagreement. Luke picked up a crumb of the black cookie with his finger, confessing directly leaves no room for retreat, so you need to substitute it with something else, hence your idea of making cookies. But the cookies themselves aren't the point. The feelings hidden within are the real attack. We got the method and purpose wrong from the start. Meaning, whether the cookies you make taste good or bad isn't important at all. As long as you made them yourself, you can convey your feelings to others. Luke looked at the black crumb on his fingertip and quickly added, of course, it's best if the cookies are at least edible. Anyway, the point is the taste doesn't matter, maybe even tasting a bit bad is better. Compared to store-bought cookies, handmade cookies that are worse and different can actually express feelings more effectively. Hearing his analysis, Hyuga started murmuring, is that so? Sigh. Yukino nodded helplessly. Although it's a bit annoying, he grasped the key point on this matter. He's right. However, I remain skeptical about his claims regarding the taste. Luke looked seriously at Yukino. Yukino hasn't been in love before, right? Yukino's face darkened. Guys care more about the feelings. The taste of the food really isn't important. Luke, having experienced kitchen hell, was certain. The food Mikaza and Annie made when they were just learning cooking skills was just like that, barely edible without making people sick, but definitely not delicious. If anyone else made food like that, he absolutely wouldn't eat it. But, sometimes, even if someone's technique is clumsy, if their intention is strong, if they pour all their effort into cooking, thinking about making a dish that satisfies him, eating such terrible food feels like tasting the other person's heart, making one willingly accept it. Chapter 41, The First Request Ends. The goal was more or less the same. Both Mikaza and Annie had put him through this kind of thing, so Luke looked at Hyuga and spoke from his experience as a member of the opposite sex. Hyuga-san, please trust me on this. As long as you put effort into your creation, the boy who senses your feelings will be moved. So even those bitter, hard, terrible cookies of yours are enough. Don't have that last sentence. Hyuga, both shy and annoyed, randomly threw a bunch of hidden weapons, likely crumpled paper or other small harmless items. I'm just telling you the facts. Luke caught the flying plastic bags and tissues with quick hands and eyes. Glancing at the time, it wasn't early anymore. He added, and a particularly important point, this move cannot be used on someone who already has a partner. What nonsense are you talking about? I would never do that. So annoying, I'm leaving. Hyuga glared at him, slung her backpack on, and charged towards the door like an angry bull, stopping there. Yukihama-san, what about this request? Yukino Shita Yukino asked Yukihama Yua, who was lingering at the door. Yukihama Yua turned around, smiling. I've found the answer already. I'll work hard on my own. Thank you, Yukino Shita-san. Hey, what about me? Luke grinned. Hearing him, Yukihama Yui hesitated for a moment, then asked, Shut-in boy number 2, from your standpoint, how would you feel? Feel about what? Luke asked. Like if someone expressed their feelings to you like this. Luke, feeling he already had immunity to straight balls, thought for a moment and said, Me? I might need more feelings. Of course, this is pretty good too, at least it's a point-scoring action. Oh. Thank you too. Yukihama Yui nodded, flicked her apron off, and waved goodbye with feigned nonchalance. See you tomorrow. Only the 2 members of the service club remained in the home economics room. They wordlessly watched the closed classroom door. Staring at the door, Yukino Shita Yukino, worried about Yukihama Yui, asked softly, handling it like this. Is it really okay? Of course not. That idiot wore the spare apron away. Luke grasped the key point. Yukino Shita Yukino's face was written with helplessness towards him, but she didn't offer any more sarcastic remarks. Today was arguably the first proper club activity since he joined the service club. The 2 had gained a new understanding of each other through Yukihama Yui's request. From Yukino Shita Yukino's perspective, she could be considered to understand him now too. I meant the way Yukihama-san's request was handled. I still believe one should strive to improve oneself, become outstanding. That would be helpful to Yukihama-san. Why do you have motherly attributes too? Luke looked suspiciously at Yukino Shita Yukino, reminding her, Yukino Shita, that's probably not something we need to consider. Everyone has their own life, it's best not to impose your plans on others. Hearing his words, Yukino Shita Yukino's eyes dimmed, and she lowered her head, making it unclear what her knowledge-filled mind was contemplating. Luke, who was about to roll up the bags and clean up the trash, waited for her with slight concern. Yukino Shita? Are you okay? Yukino Shita Yukino took a deep breath. You sound rather like your own assessment of Yukihama-san. Just much more optimistic. Which assessment? What assessment do you think you made? Has your brain filled its memory cells because of today's events? Paramecium. Having recovered, Yukino Shita Yukino called out his species after a long time. Luke realized, oh, you mean the idiot part, right? There's nothing wrong with being an optimistic idiot. He maintained his exorcism business year-round. Facing evil spirits, the collective embodiment of human negative emotions, maintaining a basic positive and optimistic mood was essential. Otherwise, no matter how strong the body became relying on external objects, it would become exhausted due to mental erosion, losing the proper enjoyment of life. Such exorcists could sometimes be more terrifying than evil spirits. So, for example, there are many ways to exorcise, but the most crucial thing is still to maintain mental strength. Luke said firmly. Sigh, looks like fulfilling Hiratsuka-sensei's request is still a long way off. Yukino Shita Yukino sighed faintly at his nonsense. Alright, what should we do with these things? Luke looked at the cooking ingredients and tools scattered on the table. That Yukihama person actually took the chance to sneak away, even though it was her request. Yukino Shita Yukino, also still wearing her apron, approached the counter and said calmly, it doesn't matter, I still need to use them. You? Luke looked at her puzzled. Yukino Shita Yukino didn't explain with words but directly started working with the remaining ingredients, rolling up her sleeves, cracking eggs, mixing, adding ingredients, mixing again. Her movements were so skilled that he almost felt a sense of dazzling déjà vu. The same task, yet the difference between people was worlds apart. Finally, no more eating cookies with eggshells inside. Luke, realizing this, didn't become a hindrance. He proactively moved away from the counter, standing quietly nearby, waiting. The lingering bitterness in his mouth made Luke swallow some coke. The residual bitter taste was one thing, but most crucially, as time fermented, his stomach felt a burning sensation. What I ate earlier gave me some heartburn. Soon, Yukino Shita Yukino had already used molds to create various patterned dough shapes, placed them in the preheated oven, and set the timer. The aroma of cookies slowly wafted out. Her preparation was thorough, movements skillful, process meticulous. The taste of the cookies could be imagined. Soon, as the oven timer went off, Yukino Shita Yukino put on gloves and took out the cookies, which now smelled even richer. Yukino Shita Yukino placed the cookies on a serving plate. Freshly baked, they looked crisp and fragrant, their golden brown surface gleaming slightly, appearing crunchy and delicious. Do I still need to call you? Yukino Shita Yukino said without turning her head, arranging the cookies on the plate. Oh. Luke went over to help her, arranging the cookies. Then, he comfortably popped a cookie into his mouth. Instantly, the cookie snapped lightly with a faint grunge. The cookie's flavor spread, and the taste of the hellish cookies vanished. Even he, who didn't particularly like cookies, couldn't help but offer sincere praise from the bottom of his heart. Delicious, really amazing. As expected of Yuki no Shida. I just followed the recipe. There's nothing particularly astonishing. Yuki no Shida showed a tiny smile. But I accept your compliment, thank you. Yuki no ate a cookie with satisfaction. Why did she suddenly become so gentle? Luke thought secretly while eating the sweet cookie. Yuki no is quite cute when she's not being sarcastic. Yuki no didn't make many cookies, but since they had both barely managed to eat Hyuga Hamayu's cookies earlier, their appetites weren't large now. So, naturally, Luke gratefully took the small remaining portion. And so, the service club's first requested task came to a tentative end.